I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Directors of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado, will hold a regular meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 11th, 2022 at 13919 West Utah Avenue, Lakewood, Colorado 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option for those that may not be able to attend in person. The district will offer the option of participating in this meeting via video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://us06web.zoom.us/j/j/895-3322-5776 or call 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with the connection at the time of the meeting, please follow the link https://support.zoom.us/en-us-sections-200-305-593-troubleshooting. If you still experience issues, email customer service at greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in the district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customer service at greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we may accommodate your request. Agenda item number 1 is called to order and declaration of quorum. Jeff Baker present.
Todd Hooks present.
Dave Whitman.
Karen Morgan present.
Roger Wendell present.
All 5 directors are present. I declare a quorum. We'll close agenda item 1 and move to open agenda item number 2. Directors matters, disclosure matters. Do the directors have anything?
I had 2 brief comments.
Okay.
I wanted to thank Mr. Tyus and his crew, his staff, for a very thorough tour of their facility and their operations and their equipment. Happened about 3 weeks ago or so. It was really enlightening, and I was impressed with everybody and the operation in general. It's well run, and I appreciate that. So just a comment there. Thank you, Mr. Tyus. And then I received a call from a constituent suggesting that our agenda is not detailed enough for these meetings. I'm not experienced enough to comment on that either way. Maybe it's something we could discuss at a later date, but the concern is not enough detail in our agendas.
Any other matters? Okay, I'll close agenda item number 2, open agenda item number 3, approval of additions to or deletions from the agenda. Does anybody have any of those they wish to do? No, I'm going to close agenda item number 3 and open up public comment for past motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board of Directors, May 11th, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during the public comment period are asked to keep these comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of the district business. Members wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board values your input, we always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district email system or by phoning into customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting during the period set aside for public comment. So I'll go around the room. Do we have anybody from in the room wishing to speak tonight? No. Do we have anybody online? Mara, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone, and happy autumn to you. I am wanting to discuss draft proposal budget 2023. I appreciate all the work that goes into this. I know how hard it is. I know how much work it is. I've done it for many years for major corporations and budgets, very detailed. I'm pretty stunned by the bottom line of this budget. You're projecting and proposing to the 11,000 accounts in the Green Matter Water District an $8.3 million loss for 1 year. That averages out to about $755 per account. You don't spend money you don't have. It invites us to get into your day-to-day business, which I'm sure staff doesn't want. When you look at this budget, which I did, went over page by page, detail by detail, it begs questions on quite a few line items. I wouldn't have even had to go into that detail to start questioning some of those line items and increases and expenditures if I hadn't seen the front $8.3 million loss. Most of that loss, as you well know, having read the budget proposal, is for capital expenditures and outlays for new infrastructure, which is mostly explained under the Phase 1 Union Corridor Fed Center. I look at revenues of this district of about $15.5 million operating proposed revenue. You don't have a business, a product, a division, a company that has $15.5 million in operating revenues and then propose to your board an $8.3 million budget loss. If you don't have the money, you don't spend it. When did we go into the charity business to build infrastructure for profitable for-profit developers? Why isn't there a corresponding income to that capital outlay? If we're going to build infrastructure to the tune of almost $11 million for a new development and new developers who are profit centers, profit palaces, they should be paying for that. We should see that in the income. We shouldn't be letting them make a wonderful profit. Good for them, that's their business, but go into the pockets of your constituents for that money. It's wrong. I consider this budget a non-starter, and I would hope it goes back to the drawing board and a more reasonable, realistic, and fiscally responsible budget for your constituents is represented. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Amara. Do we have anyone else online that would wish to speak? Please raise your hand. Going, and gone. Okay. Get back on my agenda here. I'm buried in the budget. There we go. Still lost. Be looking for. I think I'm on it here. The rest of the agenda. I got it. So we'll close agenda item number 4. And we'll move to agenda item number 5, approval of the minutes. I would motion to approve the August 9th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes and the August 11th, 2022 special board meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
A second.
We have a second. Discussion? No discussion?
Yes, I'm sorry. It would be maybe helpful. I know I had edits. They were very minor. But I just want to make sure that they're in there. I don't know if anybody else has edits. Minor, otherwise your name is spelled wrong again on one. So if either way, it's not a doorstop for today, but it might be helpful just to recirculate those prior to the meeting if people have edits so that we can check it. So
I
that's
think
it.
there's usually the minutes are up here at the head of the table.
I know. I stopped y'all last time though to check on this.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion, or is that an issue? That's not there. Okay, call for vote. All in favor of approval of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All 5 directors say aye. Both of the August 9th, 2022 and August 11th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes, special board meeting minutes are approved. We will close agenda item number 5 and go to the district manager report. Agenda item number 6. Jeff, the floor is yours.
Yes, in the district manager report, I hope everybody had a chance to review it. And is there anything we need to review in further detail in order to move time along?
Yes, I'm afraid I have lots of questions. Packed a lot in here. Do you think we could go through it? You
Yes.
could go through it today?
Oh, yeah, no problem. So if we start with, there's the outline, we don't like the recognitions, you probably heard on the news that, we're in the third hottest summer on record, the hottest September on record, so we did have a lot of phone calls. That customer service did a great job responding to our customers because they found themselves, watering their lawns and stuff a lot more. So Green Mountain does do a good job diagnosing water leaks, saving water. But like we always talk about, we do have the Badger network, which is the cell points that show, read once every 24 hours that show, what possible customer water leaks, and our customer service is proactive on notifying customers of a possible water leak. So they do a great job, and we do send out our technicians free of charge, which is a big deal. A lot of water districts would charge to send out their technicians. So and our, our field guys do a great job. They have a great relationship with the customers, and I can't emphasize enough, it's interesting. A lot of the people that work here grew up here and have family and friends here. So the customer service is doing a great job. And if we go to the next chart, you'll see the year-to-date customer service dashboard for how many calls year-to-date. It's massive. And that's the ongoing dashboard. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we have the asset care dashboard that lists everything, all our assets, what we're working on. Even the 811 locates is a big deal anymore with the new 811 locate laws that went into effect in 2019. So there's a lot of work in asset care. And then the maintenance report was requested. So here's the breakdown of the maintenance report listing what was prior with the install of the cell endpoints. An interesting thing with the cell endpoints is, Green Mountain has a reputation of getting hard reception on any type of radio frequency, whether it be AM, FM, or even cell phone networks. And the interesting thing is they were able to boost the Verizon AT&T endpoint networks with transmitters that worked in a lot of dead spots, and we didn't have to pay for it. So that was a big deal.
How many are left that we haven't been seeing that for a while? What's the how many endpoints are left to install?
I have to check the exact number. I think we have like 20% left. I'll get back with you the exact number of the endpoints. I know we put it in next year's budget too. And then water main breaks were about normal for our age of district, maybe below average. And just diagnose the causes of water main breaks.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Because
Yeah.
this brought up a lot of good points that I was actually going to bring up later on in the meeting, looking at the Solterra filing. So the ground shrinking and due to drought. And then you say it didn't have the proper bedding to resist ground movement, and that's a big concern throughout the district, and even bigger concern out there. So I just wanted to point that out, because when we get to that point, I'd like to see this kind of the remedies for this actually in the engineering drawings for that, instead of just kind of the standard drawings that are included.
Does
Right
this mean
now.
the original, are you thinking the original installation was improper, or did not entail what should have been put in place on the original installation?
I don't know what was done for years.
They didn't lay squeegee. Typically what you do, you dig the ditch, they didn't lay a bedding of squeegee below and above it. They would just wheel roll or pack the soil they removed, and that causes all kinds of problems
A
down
lot
the
of
road.
movement and,
Tons of problems, you name
Okay.
it, it'll cause a problem. So the standard going.
so now we know better.
We know better, so.
Yeah, yes, sir. It's in our rules and regs. So we have, the bedding was an issue. Plus cast iron pipe's a major issue. The soil's pretty corrosive, becomes brittle. So now we use PVC, more flexible. We can modify our rules and regs, but it is in there the proper type of bedding with the standards. It's always room for continuous improvement.
Do you think it is? I did not see the proper bedding in for sowing soils and for bedding movement in the rules.
We'll check on that.
And that cast iron corrosive problem, it is good to see you acknowledging that, so thank you very much. I have asked about that before, And that does shorten the lifespan of the pipes as you're seeing a little bit, we just don't know. But that doesn't always get acknowledged, so I wanted to say thanks for bringing those problems to the fore.
Yes, it's a real problem, and
Yes,
it's directly related with our customer beginning concerns, trust me, with the reason why we have to look at infrastructure replacement. This right here is a big reason for infrastructure, not, you know, this is actual, you have to replace it.
Yeah.
And everybody's right. I mean, the customer's right too, is like, yeah, you know, this should all been done in the past 20 years with new development, new tap fees, all that. We know all that. So we move on to project management. So we are making progress on the sewer line Kipling now needed, just got word today from engineering that is out to bid. So the bid's posted, and
can I ask about that?
Yes.
That was, I know that comes up, and some of this is gonna be, you know, if you have it in one space, maybe don't put it in the other space, just so that I don't redouble your thing. I'd like to make a motion to put a stop work on all of this. The whole Kipling thing was pending agreement on that exposition development. We don't have an agreement.
okay.
I didn't realize that was going up to bid. We were kind of talking about doing that, but we're not there yet.
Well, but going out to bid,
Well,
Can we
we
still
have,
do-
we have a motion, so we
Oh, sorry.
can enter discussion, so I
okay.
will second the motion, so now let's move into discussion.
So I guess my question would be, would it make sense to have the bids ready so that if we did go back to the developer, that we had an amount to tell them that they would be sharing with us?
I don't
Well,
know what to do
or-
with this. At this point, we're paying for all of the design and everything that has gone into this, and we don't have an agreement. It was supposed, in my world, it should have been agreement. And all of the costs associated, including getting this designed and bid out, would have been included in that share agreement.
so Director Morgan, great point there. We did have we had a hard date that we had put down for them to get this all approved and all this stuff. I believe we have
Have we passed that?
we passed that date. And if we have, then this is Director Morgan's points well taken, and we will be doing a stop.
Yeah, because, so they were going to share in the design costs as well with the engineering firm,
I believe they should be.
right?
And that's included in the draft agreement,
That's not signed. Yeah.
which is not.
Okay.
So it's
So they were the ones pushing the last meeting. It's like, you know, they were like putting pressure to bear on us, but it was them that hadn't gotten all of their stuff done on their side, so.
Yeah.
Where are we at? And if I believe I know it's like either we passed it or we're right at the bingo point on that, so.
Well, have we already, is the design completed?
Yes.
So if the design's completed and we've already, if that is a sunk cost. Personally, if the cost is already sunk at this point, I would rather get the bids. I mean, if the cost was not there, I would say stop it, but if we've already signed and committed and are basically are on the hook for the engineering fees, why not get the bids? I mean, because to me, this cost is sunk, we're in whether we're doing it or not.
there will be other costs, right? When we get the bids, we're gonna have to review them and close it out and pick one. There's a start date generally included in every bid, so we would have to reconstruct those depending on the timeline that this agreement gets started.
Because of like material costs and other things, or,
No, there's just usually, and I didn't look at these, but they generally start within 6 weeks, yes, for
Okay.
materials stuff.
okay,
But we don't know what that is looking like.
Well, you know, you'll have permits expire, those kind of things, they sunset, and, you know, if you're not going on the timeline and you're sticking to it.
so like where that says the city of Lakewood, I mean, is the engineering plans already approved?
Yeah, so
So we have stamped permitted.
Yeah,
plans.
engineering has all the permits approved by City of Lakewood.
Yeah, so I guess this is my problem. There's been a lot of personnel work on all sides for it, and I don't. Dylan, have you heard anything from them?
I got a request about 2 weeks ago for the updated cost estimates, and I said, it hasn't gone out to bid, we don't have cost estimates, and I emailed the attorney for the developer today when I got the notice to say that bid opening is November 3rd.
Okay,
So mine was the last communication out.
so you think their agreement may depend on the total cost of the, on this bid?
Yeah, so their last request was 50% with a request for a not to exceed amount.
Yes.
And we did not agree to a not exceed amount, and they did not agree to a not exceed without knowing the proposed.
So out of curiosity, how much are the design fees for that? Do you know off the top of your head?
Do not know, I can find out though.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like $5,000 or $15,000 or,
Was there a project deposit from the developer?
I don't think so. I don't think the developer ever gave us a deposit.
are we allowed to ask for a retainer of some sort?
Typically, yeah,
You should, yeah.
some for, I would have assumed that there would be a deposit for the engineering review of their system.
Right.
Yeah,
Drawings,
for their homes. But not for the.
yeah, their on-site infrastructure.
And I want to say what we have paid so far, but we don't have. It's more along the line, I shouldn't even say again.
But, yeah, so I guess if it saves us money to stop, I'm fine with that. If we need, but Dylan, with what you're saying, based on your communication with the other attorney, they really want a cost estimate prior to signing the agreement.
Yeah.
So is it bad to ask for a cost estimate not knowing the start date?
We gave them a cost estimate, but it was
Yes.
just an estimate, so they want a better cost estimate, which only could be provided with a bid.
If this is gonna go. And knowing the way that things work on a budget, if it's tied to a hard number. I don't know whether or not I want to continue here.
The bid opening is set for November 3rd.
And I can chime in. Normally, we can give pretty good estimates on pipeline jobs. However, as everybody knows, supply chain, the bidding climate, this is crazier than I've seen in over 40 years of practice. So we can't safely guarantee or predict how the bids will be. We have contractors who can't get pipe, can't get materials, they're delayed. Suppliers where they used to lock in pipe or lock in materials, equipment, pipe, they won't lock it in because the supplier doesn't have control either. So it's somewhat of a wild card. We tried to be conservative in that estimate. However, this bidding's been crazier than I've ever seen. So I should factor that into the equation.
Oh, and that's fine, but this is for them. This isn't really for us. So I appreciate the note, but we're still spending district money with no recovery at this time for engineering and staff. So this is their, that's the whole job of a contractor. You're kind of a gambler. So that's on their side, you're playing the odds. But, we're accountable for dollars spent on the district side, so.
Maybe we need to do that again in executive session, so I don't want to get into the details. Maybe I can just remove this. The agreement right now, what it comes down to, we don't have an agreement. And if it comes down to us doing work prior to getting an agreement, I think that's probably a poor starting place. We gave them all the information that we had.
Right, I'd agree.
So you want to vote on your motion or do you want to withdraw it?
I'd like to continue. If we still have room to pull that, it's due to post on the 3rd, then
Well, so it went out today.
it went out today
Yeah.
to close on the 3rd.
Yeah, bids to be opened on. Right, in advance of the next board meeting.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tricky to, see, that puts the onus on us to handle all the bids and figure out what we're doing, and we don't have an agreement on what we're doing yet.
Just a quick note, everybody knows that these homes are being built, the service lines are going in as we speak. I mean, they're putting in the sewer line, so sooner or later, they gotta.
They
figure out
have
where-
to come
where
back.
Figure out where to put the sewer from the homes.
Right, but it's incumbent upon them to be timely. You know,
Yeah.
we all talk about responsibilities and swim lanes, and the fact that we're even having this conversation is troublesome.
To me, if they're that far, like if they're truly adding their own infrastructure,
Yes.
to me, we should have already had a signed agreement.
Yep.
I mean, I would think that they would want it secured to know what they were getting.
I agree.
And the not to exceed, I mean, I guess I appreciate that idea. However, exactly, I guess with what Terry said, when you don't know how available materials are and other things, I mean, as time stretches out and I'm a contractor, I might say, yeah, I can give you this price for 60 or 90 days, but after that, I have to rebid the materials again. I mean, and to me, I certainly don't want us agreeing to something and then the price goes up $100,000 and we're stuck with it because their attorney, you know, is not still willing to split as we had discussed, so.
Well, I guess the question is, what part of our agreement is enforceable at this point, or what, you know, where are we at? in your-
Well, they're not tapping into district infrastructure until you give the go ahead. So you still have,
Yes,
That is our control.
right,
yeah, they can't get a CO without the district granting service.
I guess that's our place of negotiation.
Well, I mean, we have the places that's why I feel like there's something that this should stop until we have an agreement, because we do have, I just feel like we're getting pushed.
The problem is we got bids, you know,
They're
it's
out now.
incumbent upon that, right? So the
Well,
outcome of November 3rd,
Are we allowed to modify a bid? Like, and add to it a caveat that, you know,
it's already gone out.
Right.
I understand, but what I'm saying is telling them that this may not happen as quickly as we think. I mean, to give them kind of a notice that,
the prospective bidders.
correct,
Well, I'm sure, I haven't seen the bid documents, but I'm sure that they include something along the lines of the district reserves the right to refuse rejecting bids.
okay,
Exactly,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, that's in all.
So you do not have to accept or enter into a contract.
Okay.
Once you've received bids, it's still your prerogative.
All right, well, then I will withdraw my motion and we'll just go and let's talk this up to a learning lesson, because all of this, and like Amara said, I had the same comments for later on. We're not working for the developers. And this was to be pending some of that, and that's why we had the negotiation set where we were. So I was assuming that we were not spending money pending the agreement, and I didn't catch the way things were going prior to this, so thank you for going through the slides and that will work.
So we want to keep this tracking on the agenda going forward.
No problem.
And yeah, just that's
All right.
whether or not we do something next
Okay,
time.
go ahead, continue.
Okay, so the sewer pipeline, Bear Creek Golf Course, I just put on their mobilization equipment. We're starting that, and like I said, Terry's been doing a great job all along communicating with the owners of the golf course, because everything's running through the golf course. And Terry can add to that when we get into construction, actual construction, but we're just, this is why just to let everybody know that we're working with all the contractors. And the ravine crossing, so the new signs are posted with the correct wording that was directed. And Terry's working on the bids for the barricades and the pylon construction. He'll get into that under engineering. And then this is a topic that came up, we discussed before. It's up to you. There is funding available now if you wanted to purchase the 5 flow insert meters. And keep in mind, I know some of the models have already proven that the sewer is over capacity, so we don't necessarily have to put them there. We can put them anywhere. And once you purchase these five flow insert, they go in the sewer system. They're already proven by Metro Water Recovery, which is a big deal. Metro's bought quite a few of them. So they're proven accurate and we can move them anywhere. So once we buy them, we own them, we can take care of them and we can move them anywhere. You know, it'd be a tool, it'd be another asset tool to show capacity issues in the whole sewer system. If you know, it's in the budget under capital to like $5,000 or $7,000 a piece. And can be moved to different locations. And Terry and Jody, engineer from America, are working on the design for the lift station. They'll talk about that.
So kind of a caveat to the Tamara's thing, so we've got an IGA with them, correct?
Well, yeah, cameras, yeah, it's just the design of the lift station on the discharge, right, Terry?
Yeah, so
Cameras.
where I'm going with this is because of the IGA and we're gonna have a substantial capital expenditure. Somehow we're gonna have to be able to recover this, and I'd like to know when the expiration date is on the Tamara's IGA.
Okay, I'll make note of that.
Thank you, and that'll be we need that for the next board meeting.
No problem.
Thank you.
And can I ask where the funding is where, what do you mean funding is available? Is that just leftover district funds?
For the flow meters?
Yes.
Yeah, for capital, leftover capital funding for this year, if you wanted to purchase them this year.
Yeah.
Or you purchase them in the budget next year.
Okay. Can I get your opinion, Director Baker, on those? Because we had talked about those meters before, and it didn't seem like that was something that would maybe be beneficial the way that they.
Well, they're nice to have, but the issue that he brought up, and we're already at that point, we've already crossed the red line, right? So we already know we're over capacity.
Right.
To his point, this would be a great tool to use in the future to validate. You get a second validation point, you have your theoretical, and then you can measure, right? And that gives you a better confirmation of something.
Okay.
But I don't know if we need 5 of them because we already know, that those 5 zones are red. So,
Well, would it be good to have 1 or 2 of them?
well, that's what I said, maybe not 5, but I think, you know, because it's a tool like the manager Jeff Tyus was saying, we can move around. It gives us an additional asset management. It's, you know, before it's just all theoretical, right? We have to go ask Terry or an engineer, where are we at in capacities to where we can actually leave it there for whatever, a couple of days, and you whatever, get a good trend log going on the peak flows and where are we at on capacity.
Well, if 2 of them sound good, and we do that now, then in this budget year, we do have money left.
That sounds good. What does the rest of the board think?
I agree.
Why 5 initially? Because there was
We
these
had
unknown.
we had 5 zones that we were wondering about the capacity, but we already have the confirmation based on the 0.7 that we're in, it's red. So we're red no matter what. So
These are things that we could move around as, say, developers or other people, if they want to enter, or if we just, I mean, are having issues of line.
We've got-
Can I ask Mr. Tyus, if 2 would be adequate?
Oh, yes, 2 would definitely be adequate because you can move around. Everybody's right, you know, the 5 original were 5 hot zones that based on the master plan and CDM Smith proved out. So now we know for sure. That's why everything's correlated. You'll see about it when we start talking about this $8 million in money that really drew a lot of attention, which it should have, for capital expenditures for replacement of capacity issues. That's what we're based that on, is that modeling on those 5 zones. So 2 would definitely work, and you definitely want to maybe use it, especially when that GSA property is built out on the southeast corner of Union and 6. You definitely want to put one in that area. You know, that would show. Plus everything. And, you know, keep in mind, we have that RFP out there for modeling too. So it'd be another tool to aid in that modeling for a 3-year study. So once they build out on that union, you'll have this tool, and then it will be directly related to your calculations used for cap fees also.
So that's an important point. So going back to what Director Morgan and the constituent Amara had brought up, when we're funding this, we're taking it's the color of money. So we're taking the color of money out of our maintenance capital budget and we're using it as a tool that should be in the tap fee development fees
Yeah.
or something like that. I mean, we're basically doing them a favor, but we're using money, it's the color of money, and I have a problem using that color of money for this purchase. This should come out of the, it should come out of the tap fees, not out of the capital fund for infrastructure. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yes, definitely. And that's why we had to, we're trying to split that up so we can, tap fees are for capacity issues. That's the calculation is, somebody tying in your system and everybody's right. I mean, there was a 20-year period that you had this huge build out along Union, the hotels, the hospital, and the definitely the large apartment buildings where tap fees were increased, but due to regulations, we can't, it's hard to go back in time and get that money, it's a long period of time, so we're making up for lost time.
So maybe what we do is we wait, if you're talking about the federal center, somebody wants to develop, here's gonna be part of your costs. You wanna play, here's the pay.
Well, I see this kind of as a tool for all over the system, don't you? That would be.
I do, but understand, and I get it, but be careful when I'm talking about the color of money, because we're literally, when you're worried about funding development with the capital we have for set aside for existing infrastructure, that's a different color of money. If you're using that to do development any type of development studies or anything like that, you've now crossed that line. That's a different color of money.
And how much were these a piece?
5 to 7.
Well, they were 35,000 for 5, so there's 7,000, right?
Yes.
So that'd be
Conservative
14,000.
number, yes.
I think a point of clarification. 5 meters. It was never contemplated to purchase 5 meters. That's when the district was going to contract with Ted Miller and Associates, who were going to place their meters in 5 locations and record over a period of time. I forget how it was in multiple months, but they kept the meters. That was a contractor doing all of the work and using their equipment. It wasn't the district purchasing 5 meters. And I do not disagree that a decision to have your own meter, a couple, would be plenty if you were going to move that direction.
Well, that sounds, thank you, Terry. And putting that all together, that means probably what it would be better to do would be to rent the equipment per project if it is needed for a new development. If we want some for ourselves to have, that
Well, are these
That-
things available for rent?
it's not,
You have a contractor that will do that.
yes, that's what I mean.
And that's fine, because then the contractor covers that cost. I'm just saying, be careful where you're using your money for what purpose, semantics, but it matters because it is the color of money. Can't use one for the other. That's where you're talking about the algorithm with tap fees, right? Well, that's a two-edged sword, because now if we're gonna be using infrastructure, existing things for the constituents, and we're taking that across to use for development fees, then I'm not in favor of that.
Okay. And then I did not catch this as a line item in the budget. Is that, you said it is currently?
Yes, it should be under capital, it should be, I'm pretty sure it's still there. We can look real quick, just take a minute.
Who's this for?
That's the budget if you want to look through.
I have one. Okay, but thank you.
What page would it be on? It'd be on the very last page.
Sewer flow monitoring stations, 5 locations, $30,000.
Yeah, I don't see it here in the summary.
Yeah, we're looking at, I'm seeing Tamarisk, which is double the price now. So we definitely want to look at the, how we're gonna recover that cost under the new IGA with them, because it's literally doubled now from what I saw a couple years ago. Ouch.
Well, and you remember that when we did the calculations, that would be like doing a fee of $30,000 per person. Paper. Camera slips.
Well, it needs to be something more than it is now.
It is.
It's,
It's kind of-
this is the thing, you know, we're not, this is like optimization or getting smart as you go forward. When we signed up this IGA, if you're gonna stick a lift station in a water and sanitation district, you better do your homework and understand what you're on the hook for. Because those things are problematic. People don't like them. People like me and the facilities hate them because they're problematic all the time and they're a huge risk factor. Should have been figured into the IGA, and we did not do that.
Absolutely.
We will do it. We will do it in the future, though. I don't see it.
Actually, when they were included in the district, it was recommended, I don't know how much the district has kept up with it, that an additional fee for O&M replacement and energy costs for the lift station be added to their service charges so that they would be paying more than the existing customers.
And
So do you know what that delta is? Does that cover a $700,000 redundant?
But I don't know, Jeff, is if the district kept up with inflating that number along the way. I wasn't involved in that. We did an initial estimate, but that's a number that should have been looked at periodically and increased.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so when you have something like that going forward and you have a lift station or you do an IGA, you better well put that on your annual, you know, understand what that does over time.
Is that,
Correct.
this is never, I don't think ever.
so is that in the early
No.
2000s when the Tamarisk
Yeah.
IGA went with, okay.
I think to date it has collected about $11,000. Is that what we figured out last time?
That is it?
Well, yeah, and then you're looking at 700,000, so in the year 99, you know, recover it, right? If I'm just. That's why we.
This is an improved, it's a camera slip station improvement. It's another thing on top of it that just wasn't.
And it is solely for their development.
Yeah, what it is now, they have no. I believe there's no redundancy, if the lift station, and they do go down, you will have issues. They have two pumps, I believe, you always have two. But if the thing backs up, right, we wanted to have a bypass line. Otherwise, our staff would be having those large tractor trailers with tanks. Probably about 5 of them lined up 24 hours a day pumping sewage out of Tamarisk. So if we had a plug or a backup or something like it would be a catastrophic event. That's why we were talking about the risk. That's why we were looking at having to do it. But then we're looking at, you know, does the IGA or, you know, are they paying their way? And the answer is no, but we still have the problem. We're still on the hook for the risk. So
Right.
that's just bad business.
You said there's an IGA with Tamarisk?
Yeah.
Who's the other party?
Well, the development of Tamarisk, they were added in, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, we'll have to go back. Well, I'll get you that.
Well,
With us,
With us, yeah, so.
Who's the other party?
the Tamarisk, the
Why
development, yeah.
Is it their homeowners association or developer?
Don't know. That's why I'm wanting to pull it up and.
I would assume it probably got moved to the HOA. It's probably a pretty good bet.
I thought it was
don't see
included.
it.
We have agreements and what we charge.
Yeah.
All right, so we're not able to find that on the line item, so.
Oh, yeah, it is on the budget. I see it, there.
Do you want to give us a page number?
Yes, it was on the last page.
Oh, I see it. It's under sewer flow monitoring stations 5. It's 30, so it's 6,000 a piece.
Right.
So we'd be talking 12,000. If you wanted 2 of them.
So, to keep things clean, make a motion to remove that item off the budget, off the draft.
I don't think you have to motion that.
There's gonna be, I'm anticipating a lot of discussion on a lot of different items.
Okay, all right. For the sake of brevity, I will second.
Okay.
Discussion.
I think I agree, but just. What is the motion at this point?
Motion to remove the item for the sewer flow monitoring stations, the $30,000 for that.
Sure,
We can contract that out if we need.
so it's off entirely.
Yes.
Entirely.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay,
No, reduce it. For 2 units.
no.
Okay.
And it goes back to the color of money, Roger, regardless if we need it, somebody needs it, it's because they're causing it to be needed. It's not like us cleaning lines out or repairing things, it's like, oh, we need to know what the capacity is because we want to expand it. That falls into the color of money to me, so you will now. We'll have Jeff go out and get a subcontract firm, that way we're not having to own it, maintain it, calibrate it every year. Because you have to have those calibrated. And that's never cheap, I'll tell you right now, sensors are expensive as all get out, and then they take a while, they're offline for. Talking about this third party stuff, I don't know how long you might have your sensor in somebody's warehouse. Waiting for calibration, and then you still have to go subcontract. Okay, any further discussion? Call for vote, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye, we have 5 ayes, the motion passes, it's, please remove that from the budget.
I will remove it from the list.
Okay, go ahead, Karen. Or did you have more on that?
No, we're not in the budget. We're just still.
We're out there going through Jeff's.
Yeah,
So,
so yeah, operations, real quick, you'll see how everything ties together too. So, we talked about water demand, we kind of talked about it under customer service. And then we talked about continuous pumping in the pink zone. So that's why that's another capital thing we either talk about now or when we get to the budget on increasing the flow capacity of the pink zone pump station. So if you look on the map, the pink zone is covering the new development on Union there. You can see it on the northeast side of the map. It covers St. Anthony's Hospital, the hotels, the larger apartment buildings and commercial buildings. So during the months of June, July, August, and even into September when it's hot, the pump station runs constantly. So we need larger pumps. That's why it's under capital in that. And the wastewater collection system, like.
So wait a sec, so on the pink zone is the 255 Van Gordon on that? Because we just did a tap and everything on that. That's it, new large development up there off of Cedar.
Yeah.
This is. So this the pink, so that new development is it, that's it right there, isn't it? That Cedar right here? Yeah. Okay, so that's something we should have caught. With that tap fee there.
What are we talking about, you say again?
So that large development up there off of Cedar at 255 Van
Oh,
Gordon.
it's 55 South Van Gordon.
55, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry, close me out. All right, sorry.
So we allowed that to happen when we were already red. So this is another, I'm gonna keep saying this stuff as we go along. Because now we're gonna eat this somehow. We should have made them cover that because they triggered that. I mean, they were probably not the ones, but we were obviously, that's the last large development that I can think of since I've been on the board. Just making a point.
And then the wastewater collection system, even though I put no issues, there is the issues we talk about all the time with some of these modeling and asset care studies showing overcapacity. And I've sent out many letters to all kinds of SBAs for lobbyist support. So far, a few have declined, and I haven't heard back from a few. And I just put in there, the cost of PVC pipe when we contacted our supplier, we said it's 5 times higher, which is surprising that it went up to 5 times, very surprising.
So do we have like an inventory of that we keep?
A little bit, not that much though,
Should,
not.
I mean, just talking out loud, should we increase our inventory just precautionarily in case of supply chain issues?
We actually did last year, and to the staff's credit, they on frequently used items that they anticipated this, we increased the inventory.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, no one could foresee how bad this was gonna be, so probably a good idea to maybe double that, Jeff.
Yeah, so yeah, we talked about a lot of the critical parts inventory. We've been working on that for over a year. Well, the staff has, so we will.
Well, do we have the space to put it?
So you have like the building over at the Brown Zone or something, there's areas where you can store,
That's what I'm asking.
safely and securely store. I hope it's somewhat secure.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes.
this is Austin. Just wanted to speak to the 66 Van Gordon is actually tapped on the red zone. So it's not on the pink zone. We made sure of that because that's actually a low pressure area right there. And some of the buildings have issues that have been tapped on there. So we made them tap on the red zone. And then pipe, we are putting in some orders. I have some orders that are 6 to 8 weeks out for pipe, but that does run down to a storage issue, and that's been one of the concerns about trying to get like the shed bigger. I did talk with Jeff. He's going to reach out to the Fed Center, see if possibly we can extend our pink zone area over there for more storage, but we are limited on what storage we do have.
So Austin, why can't we get a semi trailer and park it at the Brown Zone? Just get semis and load them up with PVC.
Brown zone wouldn't be probably an ideal spot. Pink zone, the pink pump station is an ideal spot that's central, easy to get to. And it's got some space. That's where we have most of our fittings and parts right now. And then we have a few parts at the shed. But right now, brass and mainly bigger PVC and ductile are just, they're hard to come by right now. So I've got some orders in. Fire hydrants I ordered in February. They're shipping mid-November. So just to show you what's kind of a crunch on getting parts right now. But you know, more storage is always nice to keep those critical parts. They never go bad. So but sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good. So why don't we look at what maybe us purchasing some trailers? Because it's probably good for Austin if he had to mobilize something that he could not only could we store additional piping and supplies, but he could roll a semi too, or a trailer. So if needed.
Okay,
Okay.
the next item is, so the request for proposal posted on BidNet. We have 20 engineers, you can see on BidNet who looks at it. So there's over 20 engineering firms that saw it. We had 3 that sent in bids. They're all great engineering firms. And keep in mind, it's just like what Dylan said, you don't have to take a bid, you have a complete flexibility on bids. And I know the director's concerns on, there's not exact numbers on the bids, there's only like hourly rates, but we can always go back and say, don't exceed this amount. And there's a lot of flexibility on them. So open for discussion on that if you want to discuss.
Yeah, that was it. I was just saying with our firm, we always get pretty much hard numbers unless it's like entitlement stuff through the city. So I was just concerned that you just have somebody and they just kind of go nilly-willy with hours, and what should be 15 grand, we spend 30 grand on.
Yeah.
So
You want
you can keep going.
Are you
Sure.
looking for, so we need to close that out. Are you looking for, opinions on who to hire, or are you going to, what are you going to do with that next?
yeah, so it's really, based on our standard operating procedure, when it comes to bids, we give the bids to the directors. They review the bids, discuss it, and then determine the next step. If you want to hire in favor of a contractor, or if you want more information, you want to put it out for bid, and then we can see about having a service agreement and limit, not to exceed a certain amount of money.
When does that post expire?
It expired October 6th, but we put in there that we expected to have an answer by October 13th or 15th. So that's just, we don't have to by rules, but we expect it if you want the reply back. Okay.
I looked at them. I think they were all good proposals. If my preference right off was, for JDA, the JDA, but, I don't know if anybody else. Does anybody have strong opinion on it, one way or the other?
Nope, I think I would go with what you're saying. I mean, I know your integrity on that's pretty high, and I think, just getting the bids and moving in the direction we are, that's, in the bid process. If you're weighing in that's a good one, I'm gonna go with that myself.
Well, and I'd be curious to know what you thought, Mr. Dias.
Yes, I agree, JVA, they're all great, I work with all of them, and a lot of the little districts around us work with the RGA organization, but JVA is very high tech too, they would give us some really good data, so JVA is great.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so we could go with JVA.
Well,
Is-
but it should be a motion.
Yeah, I will make a motion that we accept the JVA bid proposal. Do I have a second?
Well, second.
We have a second. We have discussion.
Well, I just have one. Should we put in a do not exceed? I mean, is it something we can quantify?
There's gonna be some contractual negotiations. There was just a proposal with.
Okay,
Let's just.
that'll come later. We don't need to worry about that right now.
Right.
Okay,
We're just in the down selection.
just asking.
Yeah, good point. Any other questions? Okay, call the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passed. GVA won't be the selected.
I'll let them know.
Thank you.
Okay, then, we just do this in there, we do team building every 2 months, and it does cost, $200, so it's being $1,200 a year, so we just want to make, that's just, it's simple food, it's nothing extravagant, if there's any issues, let us know. Let's do that in there.
Do you do, what kind of team building activities do you do? Is it just the lunch?
We have a lunch, then we have a meeting, we get everybody's input on any type of concerns, projects. We discuss what's going on in the bigger picture with everything from, the big drought, the really issues we got to work out, get everybody's input, get everybody together, and sometimes we play a game. And I'm not very good at cornhole, but often good at cornhole though. So it's just basically team building to get everybody together and build team camaraderie.
I did not see see it delineated again in the budget. Is that everything, do you think that you would need for that?
Yeah, just a team building. There is lunches for training and meals for water main breaks, but this is just for team building. So, yeah, so when we go through the budget, we'll get more in depth. The capital priorities, infrastructure replacement. So due to overcapacity. So here we go. So this is why, the capital cost is in so much concern. So they have the sewer line on Union's overcapacity is proven through all kinds of 2 engineering companies have modeled it, Asset Care has modeled it, and it's overcapacity. So if you look at the budget, you're looking on Union between Mississippi and Florida for phase 1. And then the water line could be over capacity. The idea is it'd be easier to do the water line and sewer line together. And once the design goes out for engineering to look at the water line and start checking it, it could fall under its over capacity too. There's just more work has been done with the sewer line on that section. And then we already talked about the pink zone water pump station over capacity, pressure reducing valves. We're looking at 2 of those replaced due to capacity issues. And then, there's always this huge amount of money under the bipartisan infrastructure law, over $400 billion. State of Colorado is receiving over $600 million in water and wastewater systems. But the priorities are, number 1, low income neighborhoods, number 2, lead and copper piping, and number 3, the famous PFAS, polyfluoro alkali substances, which, Scotch tape, your McDonald's wrapper, anything that's water resistant has this PFAS, is making all the news. So those are the high priorities for this $600 million in water and wastewater. But we applied for $4 million And another priority too is being in debt, you know, if your water system in debt, yeah. So we're starting to push that through too, to try to get $4 million in federal interest-free money to put into our water distribution and wastewater collection.
When you say interest-free, we would be paying them back. We would just not be paying interest.
Well, we don't have to pay it back, sorry. Non-payments, yeah,
Yeah, because that was saying $1,000.
yeah,
It's structured as pre-forgiven loans.
yes,
Okay,
there you go, thank you.
okay, thank
So,
you.
but they can't, but they're not technically grants. They're technically loans, interest-free loans that will be immediately forgiven.
Okay.
That doesn't sound like a scam.
Everybody loves it, and that's why we're competing to try to get it, but we, you know, like I said, those people are ahead of us. So, yeah, that concludes the report. Let us know where we can do better, any concerns, and we'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll close agenda item 6 and move to agenda item 7, capital and construction projects.
So we talked a little bit about this, and Terry's online too. And we are in the process of re-updating that spreadsheet. Sorry, we didn't present it today, but we have it, and we're updating it. So
We're going to use the FICA plan that has gave to you is where we can.
we can use priorities. Yeah, we've been examining that spreadsheet. We have a file that contains that spreadsheet along with the other spreadsheets we've been using. So the first one, sewer pipeline in Bear Creek Golf Course. Terry, do you want to talk anything about that? Any more in depth?
I guess I think what you covered or what you stated earlier does cover it. They submitted materials, information. So they're ordering the pipe materials. There are 3 manholes that are buried south of, I think south of Morrison Road, and district staff is working with them to uncover those. And as part of the work, have them raise those manholes. Once they get that material, the lining material, they'll begin installation.
Are you saying, okay, I guess I was under the impression that the lines just ran through Bear Creek Golf Club, but they then cross under Morrison and go through Fox Hollow?
Correct, that's correct. They go to up to the point where Metro's interceptor begins.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep, all of that was included.
Terry, can I ask you a quick question? I'm pretty sure I've asked you before. When we're installing these new lines, or when we have uncovered lines, are we putting in, or are we wanting tracer line put on that for locate in the future?
Well, in this case, normally, yes, we would. In the new SU, underground requirements call for that. But in this case, we're using in situ lining, in situ form type lining. This is UV cure, but that doesn't lend itself to to putting in tracer wire along the pipe. However, at the manholes, and the pipes, of course, run straight between the manholes. Sam in the district is GPSing, so we'll have coordinates for every manhole in the future.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so Bear Creek, and then we already talked about the collection sewer pipe on Kipling. Talked about that more once we get a bid. And then we talked about, we did post the signs for the ravines. And go ahead, Terry, add on to the ravines. We got the signs, and you turned it out. You're going out to bid, and
Lakewood.
for Bear Creek.
Yeah, Lakewood is reviewing that. That was submitted, as you know, to Lakewood. I reached out to them to find out a timeline, and just as with Kipling, as I told you, we try to prod them a little bit to move them along. The Parks and Open Space has been engaged with the engineering division in providing some specific requirements they will have. And one of them, as we plan to do anyway, The survey has already been done. The legal description hasn't been written until we work with Lakewood on it. Is correcting the errors in that old easement. So hopefully Lakewood should have their review comments within a couple of weeks. Like I said, I did hear from the Parks and Open Space, and they have some of their own specific requirements that they want addressed in the contract documents.
Okay, great. Thanks, Terry. So that concludes construction, new projects.
I've got ravine, anything on the ravine?
Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
Okay, okay.
So-
Usually Karen has, do you have any? That's why I was surprised.
I know, yeah. I should-
An engineer that's questionless?
The signs are out there too, the ones designed.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'll close out agenda item number 7 and open financial matters, Todd.
So I did review all the finances and the financial statements, and I'm good. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the September, October operating expense and expenditures, and also the unaudited financial and investment reports.
I will second. Do we have discussion? Yes, no discussion?
Actually, yeah, how about, yeah, see there I am.
There you are. You said nope, and then you said yep.
We're buying equipment again. I wonder if I could see, it was a
The excavator?
compactor here and well, one of them is here and one of them's on the budget, and we had this discussion when it came up with the excavator, with the mini excavator. You're doing a breakdown to see how much, again, the rental cost versus all that is, and I know we talked about getting that last time. I don't remember if that was with you, Mr. Tyus, but it would probably be helpful to see a breakdown. I don't need that today. I will approve these expenses, but for budgetary things.
So there's a third option in there too, and you can work a lease option where they
And you
lease
can-
you, not just rent as needed, but you can lease equipment. And that way they incur all the maintenance, that kind of stuff. We just pay a lease fee as needed, and then if we don't need it, then you just terminate the lease.
The mini excavator is already approved and purchased.
That's right. And this came up then, that next time we would see these financial breakdowns so that we could see this considerations, and that's why I'm asking for it now for these.
Justification.
Right.
Looking for justification, capital justification.
So if we paid, so for example, if we paid $80,000 for this mini X this year, you'd want some type of spreadsheet to show, okay, we paid $80,000 for this mini X, and how much would it cost to rent it?
I'd like to
Well,
see.
how would you justify it by the district use? Why do we need it, right?
Well, so how many times we use it?
Yeah, it's like, why do we need something? And you're like, well, we want it. And it's like, well, that's good. We all want that stuff. But, I had to go, in my line of work, if I had a big capital expenditure like that, I had to write a business case, which included, frequency and return on investment, year over year, why I had to have that capital expense.
I can speak to that real fast if you want.
When,
We did talk about that on the last time, and rentals were absolutely unavailable. And they still kind of are unavailable. People that were generally renting or leasing, they had them for about 12 months, and then John Deere would switch them out for a new piece of equipment. COVID threw a wrench into all that, and most people were holding on to them well over 18 months. So rentals were impossible to get a hold of. I know they have used it well into a handful of times already for valve box straightenings, and it's a smaller footprint, so it's less of damaging to the street. Smaller situations is the main reason why we needed that piece of equipment, but we can throw in some options to that, but just wanted to fill you in on that.
Yeah, I understand why you need it, but you just said a half dozen times, and so, what in lieu of what, so we need to build the business case, Austin, of why we need that.
Sounds
For
good.
future
Yeah,
purchases.
yeah, that's my job. So I will give them my staff and my team meetings and build you a business case and get right back with you. I promise.
Okay, thank you. All right,
But that being said, yes, I was second for this.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes. The motion passes for the acceptance of the September 2022, October 2022 daily monthly operation expenses and capital expenditures and the September 2022 unaudited financial investment report. Which brings us to the presentation of the 2023 draft. Bless you.
Okay, so we'll pull up the draft budget, we'll present it. Feel free to interrupt anytime. So we'll start with the first page of the draft budget, the budget memorandum. So, the first paragraph, we start talking about, this includes, what 2021 actuals were, 2022 budgeted, what we're seeing in 2022. And then we get into the next paragraph of, hey, Denver Water, they're voting tomorrow to raise 1.96% for cost per thousand, and then along with their service charge. So we in turn propose in our budget to raise 1.6% along with service charges. And then the next paragraph talks about proposing for 6% increase in employee salaries based on 5% raises and more money for coverage along with full medical pay. And then the next paragraph talks about price increases on supply, which will be passed along in the increase in monthly fees to $17 per month. Does a comparison of Denver Water there at $17.90. And then we talk about revenues and how the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, which is raising dramatic interest on our money and banking. And then we go into all the things under capital, and we split up capital as requested from, capital items and then capital items related to infrastructure replacement. Any questions on the first page? Then the next page.
The budget's not the word packet, right? It's a separate account.
Yeah, you're right. I could probably.
I'll start with that visual. Do that. You put it in OneDrive, right?
No, I think I don't know if they'll put it in there.
Okay.
Want me to email to you real quick?
If you want me to put it up on the screen, I can do that, or I can run downstairs and check and see if I've got it on. Slightly shared. Was it shared in the OneDrive?
I just took it from the email.
I can email it to you.
Yeah.
If you just want to forward it to me, that'll be good. No,
Sorry.
Well, yeah, maybe make sure actually I can get my internet. Well, I make those ones.
So we could go through a lot of the wording real quick. So, the next page, we talk about what we have in revenues coming in for water and sewer and service fees. Service fees are like late charges and transition fees and stuff like that. Miscellaneous income, that's like, when somebody rents a fire hydrant meter and sewer inspections. So you look at that, there's a lot of numbers here. So, we don't have to go through each number at a time and let it sink in. And then you get to the cost of water. So sewage treatment isn't changing in cost. That's based on, you'll see a lot of explanations. That's based on what Metro charges us, and they're not changing. It's not metered exactly like Denver Water. So they base it on 3-year increments. And then employee salaries, taxes, benefits, that's where we're talking about 6% increase. Contracted labor, that has a lot to do with big expenses are if we got to buy asphalt from somebody to fix the streets after we work on them. Pumping and utilities, not much change there. District repair, maintenance and grounds, that's just what it says. There's not much change in that one either. The office expense, when you think of office expense, think of like big numbers like credit card billing, elections, those type of things have bigger numbers. And keep in mind, if you have this digitally, Doug did a great job putting this together. So you just tap on it and look at it. Property and liability insurance, that's going up. We get that through the CSD pool, that's going up. And then Talk about meters sold, engineering, not much change, auto expenses is always the cost of maintenance of fuel. District management consulting is going away. Locates are a big one. We put the lobbyists in there. We weren't sure the actual cost of the lobbyists, so we just, I know the discussion around $60,000 was in there. Legal costs shouldn't change too much. Audits, director's fees. Those are our expenses. And then non-operating revenues, we talked about this with the interest rates going up, how much money we're having.
What does capital reserve mean?
How much money we have in the bank. For capital, because we're taking a certain percent of the money we make and sticking it in the bank for capital. So we have reserve money. Every year we're putting money in the bank for capital projects. So yeah, so we got to make sure that, hey, there is money that have been budgeted for as long as Green Mountain Water's been around for capital improvements. And so there is money in the bank.
So it's kind of like earmarked.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, are those boundaries absolute? You cannot go from one, in some budgets, you can't move funds from one to another sort of thing. Is that applicable here? Or
Well, once you approve the budget, we can't move from here to here. We can't say, hey, we put money aside to buy a tractor, let's buy this instead. No, we can't do that. But if we have money in the bank reserved for capital, we could use that money just for capital. But once you approve the budget, it's solid. That's why we show ups and downs in the budget.
Can I ask, what was the relationship with the property and liability insurance? I thought you said CFCD. Is that the cultural district or something else?
Yeah, so our insurance company for our property and our equipment goes through the Colorado Special District Pool.
Oh, excuse me. Okay.
Colorado Special District, sorry. And then it's going up. So yeah, if you just tap on them, they'll tell you. They'll do a great job. Then yeah, so we talk about non-operating expenditures. That's where we get into, the money that's set aside for capital in the bank. So that's why operating expenditures. So if you look at, okay, we're having huge amounts, we're asking for huge amounts of money for replacement of water lines, replacement of sewer lines, and then the replacement of equipment and vehicles. That's the normal wear and tear that is going to be asked for so often based on age and stuff, and then anything related to office, and then the overcapacity issue. So you have things we could charge due to overcapacity, that's proven overcapacity, and then things we could charge just for capital improvements on water and sewer. So there's two, we broke it down to two capitals as directed. So that's the next sheet. And then you start to get into the actual numbers. We don't have to review the actual numbers if you don't want to. The actual trending of cost of water from Denver and why Denver's going up with their water charge calculations and why we're this master metering. We have 6 meters and 10-inch lines, and we work with Denver, and they charge us X amount. So when they raise their rates, we have to pass that on to our customers. So we're still within our budgets and their service fees too. So Denver Water is looking at a massive 5-year capital plan of $2.5 billion. So that's why they're raising their rates. They have a lot of infrastructure too that they're redoing. So then it goes in there to how the tier. So if we raise our rates, we have to raise them per tier. And Doug did a great job breaking this down of, okay, this is the time of year most people are in tier 1. During the winter months, people are in tier 1. Then in the summer months, people can move to tier 2 and tier 3. So he's averaging 1.65 or 1.66% per tier to cover the cost of Denver Water. Then he breaks that down to how that is actually covered in cost, with the actual bottom line numbers showing that we could cover our cost with Denver Water. So, and then we got to cover our 12.5% employee cost too. So that's why he gives that number there. Then we get into, we're gonna move into, how we charge multi-family homes, single family homes. It's all broke down. Then we get into sewer charges. So we don't have to worry too much about sewer charges. Not much is changing there because Metro is not increasing their charge to us. But it, all relates to that 12.5% of the overall sewer cost to pay for our overhead. And he gets into the numbers on sewer costs. So basically we're on page 11. And then we get into service fee calculations. That's where Denver Water is raising their service fee. So in turn, we got to raise our service fee. So we're increasing our service fee by 65 cents per month for a single family home and $17 per month. And he breaks that down to the service fees. You can see based on, meter size. And then different service fees for different number of units for multifamily. It's kind of interesting that, we have
But
one.
before you move off that page. Earlier in the evening, we were talking about the situation with Tamaras, and we were kind of losing money, et cetera, et cetera. And I see Tamaras listed there as $12,000. How does that relate to the conversation we were having earlier in the evening about Tamaras?
Right, that's what you're getting.
I guess.
You can see what we're on the hook for, and I.
700,000, we're getting 12,000 a year.
Yeah, that's structuring, so
Well, and then I saw under the equipment. Under our auto expenses, we have a unit 15 JD generator Tamaras. We have a generator just for Tamaras,
Yes, definitely backup generator.
so we got $1,000 just standby for that too. That's for that lift station, so.
if I understood earlier that we're somehow kind of losing money on Tamaras, is there some way we can give them an extra charge or something? Well, it isn't a surcharge, we'll make it a bigger surcharge, so we're not losing so much or whatever.
That's why I want to look at the IGA, right? We need to
See what we're allowed to do.
Okay, gotcha.
that's where the line of thought is on that, because right now it's a fixed signed deal.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I do.
Go ahead.
We'll look at it later.
No, go ahead. I know you had some. I get it.
Well, I think we did, I think we do have the flexibility to do that. We did look at it. We get pushback on where the issue is. Since they are included, they're part of the district. We're not charging the people who live in the pink zone more for that. For upping that capacity, making sure things work right there. There is specific infrastructure for the pink zone as well. So that's why that is an argument for, we can't charge the people of Tamarisk. Because we kind of spread all of the capital charges all over for every zone. For all of our capacity, for everything. Second one was, we can charge them more, but we're never gonna recoup 700,000. It was like, last time we looked, and you're right, it was half the cost. We were charging everybody $30,000 to cover this lift station improvement. So now we're up
You
to
gotta sign that letter.
doing a special assessment of $60,000, because there's only like what 300 people over there.
Well, this is my frustration when we're talking about tap fees and all this stuff. It seems like no matter what I'm trying to do to help the district out, it's like I can't get it done. But then it seems like when all this stuff, when these developers run everything red, all of a sudden, like we're like flush with money, and I'm gonna keep saying that. I am not
Well,
good with this.
the law, I mean, in all candor, the law is greatly slanted to the developer because they have all the lobbyists, the attorneys, and they have everyone that has, they've positioned themselves above others. And we are under kind of archaic formulas that truly cater to them.
Well,
And so
that's-
they tie our hands and we're years behind charging them for what's really happening.
That's why I said I'd rather be in front of this or proactive and ask for forgiveness than looking at the back of the dog for the next 10 years. So And I'm kind of, sorry, I'm just.
Oh, no, I like your,
5 years
I like
I've
your
been-
thinking, but
I've been
then we get reeled in.
frustrated. I am so frustrated
I
with this because it's a
understand.
one-way street that I'm absolutely sick.
Well, when I see tap fees in other districts and what they are and what we charge, we're like spit on the sidewalk.
I know, I talked with a constituent today and they were telling us, look at Willow, they're over in, oh my God.
Willow Springs.
Willow, no,
Rapo Road,
yes,
yeah.
and they,
Willow.
willow.com, and you go there and it's like, and that's something we need to probably look at how they put their website out, how they explain all this stuff to the constituents. But they're not a cheap date, I guarantee you, and they are built out. They, you know, we keep talking about this. We're at what, 98% built out or greenfield. The problem is with the city, they're not looking at greenfield, they're looking at brownfield, which means scraping and going vertical. So they have no intention of slowing this down. And that's where my frustration. It's like, I want to get in front of this thing before it eats us alive. And it's starting to eat us alive now.
It is, and like back on the capacity issue, when they want to go up, we should be able to charge them based on, like, to me, not the paltry things, but the true cost somehow. And I don't know, that's why we obviously hired a lobbyist. But I mean, our costs do not match up with what the developers do.
Right, and that's where I'm like, and we'll get to that here a little bit, but
Right.
I'm not done with this, you know, we're gonna find this unicorn out there. I will find the unicorn that will give us the damn algorithm, but if you got 5 diamonds left in your district, when you used to have 1 million, those 5 diamonds are worth an awful lot now. That's the capacity, that's how I look at it. And I don't care how we get there, because it's simple, common sense to justify this. It's
I told
common
you,
sense.
we need to be able to literally, it's like when I'd ask Dylan, like when they use terminology in the law, we need to find the words that legally allow us. Like, it's like when, like the state, nothing are taxes anymore. So they bypass Tabor, which they're supposed to use. So everything's a fee.
A fee or a charge.
It's a fee or charge or surcharge. I mean, I went out.
Semantics, and I'm
Correct,
okay
and
with
that's
that.
what I want. I want the semantics in order to fairly, because to me, I mean, all of us that have lived here forever, if you want to build 1,000 mansions, I don't care, but I want you to pay your fair share.
Right.
I don't want the other people that have been here forever to pay for you
Well,
for the next 100
and
years.
that's how we've got to this problem, like this capital expenditure on Union and Sims and, all these areas where we're red and we're like having to lay out capital was triggered by development that went over our capacity. It wasn't due to age or abuse or just wear and tear. It was due to development pressure. And here we are playing from behind. It's like, well, jeepers, we're still going to be a cheap date. No, we're not. I'm done with that. I want to find out what this is going to take.
I agree.
So
Yeah, some districts for a 6-inch water meter will charge $2 million because of.
it's probably too little too.
Yeah. And if you look at our charges,
Well, it's crazy. Like I see,
No,
like at
no,
our
it's-
architectural firm, it is crazy the amount I see for tap fees. When ours are $7,000 or $8,000, I laugh. We get fees that are 40, 50, 60, 80, 180,000, so far beyond ours. I mean, it's like I said, people must laugh. That's why they want to all use us.
Absolutely.
Cause they're, instead of having to buy a car, they get to buy a Hot Wheel.
Yeah, we're like Amazon Prime Day, 365 days a year,
yeah, probably the hottest piece of property in Denver metro area is what was sold on that GSA on the south.
We know.
Because it's RTD access straight to Denver. And it's quick, probably the quickest route to Denver.
Don't worry that you're gonna light up from all the stuff that's under the ground, but that's okay.
Is it dirt? Yeah.
Okay, do you want to camp out on it tonight?
No.
All right, so, yeah, let's go there, so good questions, and so go to page 16, we're under the operating expenses. So we get into the 75% of employee costs, the office expenses, utilities. Cutting back, projected cutback utilities and repair and maintenance on grounds. Fuel costs should be about the same. contractor labor, that goes back to, it's increasing a little bit based on, like asphalt supplies. If you look at the breakdown on that, insurance, we talked about that, it's going up because of the Colorado Special District Pool, automobile, a lot of expenses in maintenance and fuel. And so we increased our engineering cost just because we're thinking we're gonna try to get more work done next year with more than one engineering company. So that's why we increased that. And then the lobbyist costs, audit's about the same. Meters sold, about the same, director fees. And then locates is gone up. We, due to a lot of things going in the ground, even fiber optic, that's why that's going up, and we got rid of district manager consulting. And we get into the service fee revenues. When we get from, that's already broke down the charts up above on page 15.
So one of the things, after Director Morgan and I were at Denver Water, and this is something we need to start being aware of. Denver Water is telling everyone, you got to start rolling back at about 30%. They're targeting, they want reductions. So when we're looking at these service fee revenues, and if we're going to be seeing people either voluntarily or forced to reduce water consumption, that's going to drive that revenue down. Correct? Am I missing something?
But that's what governments came back to their theory.
Well,
They drive it down, then they
look,
charge us more.
I have a checkbook. It's, addition, subtraction, what's left, and you live in that house. That's where we're at
Well,
here.
we don't get a choice.
Wait, go back a second, what was it about 30% what?
They are, I'll let Karen.
But they said, Denver Water said that they have been talking to other metro areas. Denver Water is pretty well set for water, but in working with other people, they say we're going to have a target of 30% reduction in water use. They have no expectation. I did not get the impression that they expected to meet that, because there is no way they can enforce it. But he said that's the number on paper. They also said that the main way that they would be targeting that would be reduction of non-functional turf. And that would be mostly, it's not residential, it is city boulevards, green spaces, the expanse in front of the restaurant that is a yard instead of a xeriscape.
Well, let me flesh that out a little bit. If I'm hearing that they're saying that they're anticipating 30% less water. in the
They're
future.
asking for that.
They're asking now, but remember, the feds haven't moved in on this yet. I'm telling you, they're hovering around like a 10,000 pound blowfly about ready to crush us, right? They're gonna come in because of this Lake Mead, Lake Powell thing. It's critical mass. Now they're saying something nice, right? But this, and to Karen's point, they're not, it's an ask right now. Some of it will be mandated in new zoning laws or going forward, but there will be the existing, I'm telling you, the math doesn't add up.
Well,
And you've got this upper, we had Jeff explain the upper and lower Colorado basin. We're in the upper basin.
well, I anticipate we have less water. And if they're seeing that coming and saying we need to cut back, then I see that. But then on the other hand, I hear Denver Water saying, if you want to develop, we get all the water you need.
That's what that's how we became the people that no one wanted to talk to in the room, especially me, because I said, so if we save this and you guys go turn right around and take our savings and everything we just saved, and you just add more burden to the rest of us, and next year you're gonna come and say, we need you to do another 30%. It's like, I'm not okay with this.
Yeah.
Somewhere there's a limit, and that's where the guy gave me that 1,000-yard stare. I wish you were dead, and he spiked my hash browns or something, I had to get out of there.
Yeah, to sum it up, it is true that, the most water Denver Water ever sold was in 1999. So, and that's why now Denver Water is $900 million in debt. So.
Well, and so let's talk about that just for a second, because it's important with the budget. So they talked about, we have this 5% approximate increase this year. So that debt that they just talked about, that $1 billion right there.
Yes.
Well, guess what? They're thinking about that's gonna have to go for another 12 years. We're gonna see at least that increase year over year. Now, they didn't tell you that this year, but it did get fleshed out in this meeting. It's like, well, yeah, we're gonna be paying for that $1 billion in the rears that they're already on the hook for. And they have this big capital thing they have to go do, Because once again, they weren't making people pay as pay as you go. Now all of us are gonna get hooked with this $1 billion capital improvement.
Big Grossman Reservoir project work in all this.
It's in there. It's part of their, trying to remember how much that is, but
I remember that when that was originally thrown out a couple years ago, it was like, oh, we have all the water in the world, no problem.
they always say that.
Well,
They
that's
will
what
tell you when there's no water left on the planet, they'll say there's all the water left.
Right, well, that's the disconnect, it's like
That's the disconnect.
two different sides.
Okay, but I'm just saying, we need to be aware of this when,
Yeah.
if they're gonna start putting pressure to reduce, we're gonna see that line item
Yeah,
on the revenues probably go down. There'll be pressure on that.
yeah,
And
so
then you can expect year over year, that 5% will be here for 12 years.
But Denver Water also really doesn't, obviously, they don't control their costs.
They don't have to, because they can just keep doing this.
That's what I'm saying. And so it's like sky's the limit with them and they just pass it on. And now they're getting ready for the big pass. I mean, before they were little passes, now they're going into
Well, but
big.
that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's why little boards like this are important, and trying to get a lobbyist or something to get into the Golden Dome and say enough. Because it's like every time we have to do this, and I'm telling you, it's gonna get worse. To ask for the constituents every year. The budgets are gonna be spiraling out of control. Somebody's got to say that's enough. That's enough.
More likely you'll get more participation in the lobbyists once the other districts start figuring out, hey, this is a big increase from Denver. It's bigger than the years past, and then they'll keep getting bigger and bigger. And then, well, like Director Baker said, we'll sell less water. So just like Denver did in 1999, they're selling less water, so we'll have less revenue coming in. Is then, the customers that live here forever have to pay for what's been going on throughout the whole Denver metro area. All right, so so that's where, the basic costs are coming from on page 16. So if we go the employee expense summary, that's where we're asking for a 6% increase based on 5% raises and on more money for on-call from $30 to $50, and also cover insurance from 80% to 100%. So that adds up to a 6% increase overall in the overall budget. So you can see the breakdown when we get into payroll from staff, on call, overtime, GPS, bonus fund. It's all broke down in the next page. And then office expenses, that's all broke down. What are they? Our contract with Badger Meter, IT consulting, hardware, a lot of, the big office expense naturally, if you look at the numbers are bank, credit cards, postal, election coming up.
Why do we have $90,000 for election? We don't have any elections next year.
You'll have the director of the election.
Oh, okay. Do they run every year?
They changed it. Yeah, we're in the switch over to odd year elections currently, so you won't have an election in 2024.
Okay, okay.
So we'll save $90,000.
Whose decision is that to do the odd years? It's legislature.
It was legislative, yeah. State legislative.
Golden Dome people.
What's the reason behind it?
I think in part it was to reduce county clerk and reporter workloads, essentially, just to offset them.
Increase our costs, decrease their workload.
Of course.
All right, so we get into page 22. There's not much, utilities. We don't expect a whole lot of changes in utility costs. Utility costs could change the year after when we install larger pumps. If we install larger pumps in the pump station, there will be more horsepower, more electricity. It talks about the different pump stations, the different zones and utilities. Then you get into property liability. That's that Colorado Special District pool increase of 11%. See that? And we
Wait, why did that go up?
they base it on a calculation of the whole number of people that use it and what they use and how expensive it is for the whole body of the whole. So it's based on their insurance companies, actuaries, highly paid actuaries.
Yeah, so they get 11.34.
Yeah, that's the way they calculate it, so
So maybe we need to hire an actuary,
probably couldn't afford them.
probably. I'm sorry. Should have been an actuary.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would suppose a lot of that is catch up in property values. They haven't adjusted properly this year.
there you go.
everyone has decided when everything's going to crap, we'll just like gouge everyone's eyes out at the same time, or?
Yeah. Get in while the getting's good.
Yeah.
Then we get into auto expenses, it's broken down, what repairs we're doing. A lot of it still goes back to parts, equipment. Takes a while to get things paid for, and it did a great job breaking down each auto expense per equipment. And we'll get you a business case on the Mini X on how often we use it, like average cost per hour to use it.
How many generators do we have? Do we just keep generators at every pump station?
No, well, believe it or not, we don't have enough generators because of everything that happened. And, Superior kind of up to standard. When Superior burned down, they lost their generators and they ran out of water. So that's why we're requesting another generator. We have a lot of pump stations for the size we are because of the geographic situation we're in. Most people don't have 10 pump stations. Most people have 2. If we're supplying 11,000 taps, it's just, our geography is tough here. So we got auto expenses, and then we get into repair and maintenance. This talks about the grounds. Like we talked about before, we do a lot of repair and maintenance on water storage tanks where, there's all these strict laws on the drinking water laws for any type of pollutants. You can't use a lot of things around storage tanks. The Colorado Department of Health, their biggest concern is, number one concern for them is drinking water storage tanks, because that's where they have the most problems. So that's why it costs more to do landscaping around a drinking water storage tank. Then it's broke down in repairs. You can see, maintaining those stations isn't too bad. It's just designing them and upgrading them. And keep in mind, once you get all this information, you can look for options too. Like once you get the information on camera risk and the cost, you can say, well, do we have any other options? Because just like Director Baker said, if the lift station goes down, we put a vac truck on it. So for example, options could be more alarms. So we get on the lift station before we spend $700,000 doing it. We put a vac truck, or we park the vac truck there by the lift station or something like that. A backup. They make portable pumps too. There's all kinds of options. So you're not necessarily tied into that. So the first step is looking at the IGA and then look at your options.
So is the landscaping increase due to the red zone stuff?
Let's see, we broke that down. Oh, we're getting rid of we're gonna hire a contractor to take care of this area around this building, because it's more feasible to have a contractor do it than have field techs doing it. So no charge of repairs and maintenance, landscapes is increasing because of the need of refurbishments of the, you're right, red pump station site.
Isn't that
So
just
that's
like
the edge.
weeds and stuff? I mean, what do we have to do up there?
I think we got an estimate, and that was the estimate on redoing the rock and the edging.
I mean, isn't that the one up on the hill here? Isn't that just tumbleweeds?
I think they wanted to replace the rock edging, 1,800 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah, edging and rock.
it's just tumbleweeds up there. Okay. All right.
I could get you, trust me, anything you guys want, I'll get you in-depth information.
I guess I'd like.
I'll get you pictures.
Yeah, I just.
Well, if it's just weed control, we can't just literally mow it? Why do we have to pull them?
Or spray it or something like that.
Well, it says you can't because of
Oh,
the
it's
chemicals,
salt
but
water.
Yeah, they hand pick
but
them.
if it's just mowed, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, to me, as long as you mow it down.
Well, I think throughout history, some of these storage tanks are in residential areas, so they wanted to make it look nicer.
I don't think the red zone is,
Yeah, I don't think
it's literally up on the side of a hill.
Yeah, I'll
I need
get
to
you.
walk here, I'm about blowing my lungs out, so that's the one I think it is. So it's a ways from the houses, it's tumbleweeds around there, a couple of rabbits were concerned, but. Other than that, I don't know why.
We'll get you more in-depth information on it, no problem. And then contracted labor, like we talked about, that's, if we we do any work in the streets, we gotta repair the asphalt, so that's a big expense, and then IT, security, server inspections, maintenance, more CCTV, sewer lines. It's all broke down, so your biggest expense are the asphalt and we're on page 32. There's a lot of information here. Then we get into miscellaneous income where you get into like hydrant permit fees, penalties, sewer permits, shut off fees, transfer fees, those type of things. You see that the late fees are a big one there. Late fees, penalties. So we're moving into, what this is, pool investment money. This is money we have in the bank. So, we have close to $20 million in the bank that, it's always been so much percentage set aside based on the sale of revenue of water and the fees set aside for sticking in the bank for capital expenditures in the future. And along with big ones, tap fees. So here we get into capital expenditures, which is a huge number. So we just go down the list, we can see that, some of these things, we're looking at handheld collector needed to maintain compliance with Denver water. So this is just a GPS. So we're looking at, there is a savings with the GPS, and then that sheet foot roller, which is the next thing under GPS, that hooks on to the Mini X. It all does is compact soil, fix ditches on the Mini X. So no matter what type of pipe we dig up or anything, it's just a quick and easy way to get in and get out. It saves a lot of time and a lot of money. It's working it by hand or other equipment. Then you get into,
How much is that?
let's see, that's on the bottom there. Sheet foot mini excavator costs $9,000.
So that's the kind of stuff, like I said, I think we need to have, because you have a jumping jack, you guys are going into a ditch, you have a cut 10 feet long, 2 feet wide, and you're just putting stuff in there, you put a jumping jack in there. I don't know. I mean, it's nice to have, but can we justify it?
Yeah,
That's the kind of stuff I need to know about. So
okay. Yeah, well, we just go through each one. We'll give more in-depth information, whatever you need. More in-depth information on any item. So we talked about the GPS, Trimble calculator, the sheets foot roller excavator on Mini X. Then we get into security system upgrades on 11 sites. Those are the card readers hooked to a high-tech service system that took the phones and everything else. SCADA, you can see it. Detached server building design. That's upgrading basically the whole cybersecurity network. So if we take, for example, this old MCI building and redesign it, that's the cost of redesigning it, the whole servers. Right now, the servers are in the basement, which are a hazard. Then you get in capital vehicles. These are just, we talk about business cases where you're just replacing vehicles based on age and wear and tear. A big one is new CCTV equipment. That's the closed circuit television equipment, which is used every minute of every day based on a work week where they stick it down the sewer pipes. And so the system is worn out, old, it's beyond age. So that's why that's such a high cost on that one. And then you get into capital office equipment, the server replacements, ArcGIS. Then we get into system improvements, which is what was left, maybe a lot of leftovers from years past. We're still working on cellular endpoints, still working on ravines, which will carry over, access barriers. Bear Creek should carry over a little bit, so that's why it was budgeted. It'll still probably carry over so much cost into January of next year. And that's where you get into, we give you more information on the Tamarisk lift station improvements. I think the original one was, okay, let's design it. Now it's up to design and construct and build. So that's why it's gone so much in cost. It went from design to construct and build. And then you get into improvements under water improvements. You're getting into the water line along Union, which is parallel with the sewer line. So that's why that was thrown in there to say, okay, if we're gonna replace the sewer line over capacity, let's replace the water line too, because the water line is a cast iron line that's old, and it goes back to what we said on water main breaks, where it wasn't installed with the correct bedding, the correct format, and it's exposed to corrosive soil. So that's why that's in there. And then the peak pump station generator, that's, you know, and you well know the peak pump station does feed St. Anthony's Hospital, so it's pretty critical to have a generator on that pump station. And pump station tank battery. So basically, we're putting battery backups for control systems on each pump station due to power outages, or, you know, due to a lot of things happening in the world today, we expect more power outages than normal. Tank hatch improvements. This is the hot topic for Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Most contaminants enter through drinking water tank hatches. That's their #1 concern on a drinking water storage tank. So a lot of the tank hatches are old and have to be updated. So that's why that one's in there. Design system improvements design. That's this, carry over for next year if you have to design any modifications on sewer and water. Then you get an infrastructure replacement due to capacity. So phase 1 sewer improvement down Union. So we're saying in the paragraph, we're saying, hey, let's go down Union from Mississippi to Florida just to replace that, because that's a hot one, along with the Kentucky is down lower also. So those are the two hottest areas for overcapacity issues. You know, actually Kipling and Alameda are a hot topic if 10700 Expo goes in too. So that's why we have Kipling sewer replacement on there also.
Okay. You can say it slower, I have to visualize. Union Boulevard between Mississippi and Florida.
Yeah.
That's down there, you guys. I was thinking that was up near the Federal Center. That's not anywhere near.
It's right down, it's right.
That's
by
down
us.
like where the auto repair place and the everyday market,
Florida.
yeah, and then down to the light now.
So do we have developments going in down there?
Yeah, you have the one up there by the swim club. You put in
That's what 12 houses. It's
Well, I know, but we did put in an office building there, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is the escapements. You know, we kept building, we kept building, we kept building. And now this is what you get.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm so surprised. Like I say, I'm so fearful about what happens on Union Boulevard there at Fed Center. The big Union Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now we're talking about south of Alameda.
It's everywhere. We have 5 zones that were
Yeah.
over capacity.
Yeah, there is a zone on Union where it connects up there, but we'll have to get what that street's called, Ross, where everything's tied in up there. That is a hot zone too, a hot spot also. This is just a hotter spot, but you'll see it as this builds out, that will take
I'm thinking
over.
that this area is relatively small potatoes compared to, like I said, when you get up to the Federal.
Well, what's that other, I saw something come through on another development. They wanted to stick a bunch of homes somewhere right in that area. Besides in between the swim club, there was another,
Well, there's South Alcott over here, but that's right over here up the street, but.
there was another one.
There's none. But
Multifamily.
But the reason why they took a lot of pressure off, that's a sewer map up there, but they took a lot of pressure off of St. Anthony's when they built another sewer line, that big one that runs directly east, took a lot of pressure off the Union line. So that's why, even though they're at the corner of that is still over capacity, but it would be majorly over capacity, they wouldn't have done that when they built out St. Anthony's.
Well, remember, you got that little tiny chunk of land right there at Mississippi and Union. That someone's gonna develop that too. So you got, look, we got all these little parcels. I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna do something there. And this is why we need to do something different than what we've been doing.
Yeah, but
We're gonna
something,
keep eating this.
something like this was just kind of I want to say a non-hammer, that much money for nothing. What happens when we get to the big stuff at the Fed Center? It's like, holy smokes.
Yeah, you just hold on.
Okay.
Well, that's the purpose of this, is to bring out what is real out there. And,
Well, so Jeff, that's why I'm just gonna take a moment. That's why I wanna see that FICA plan. Where we have everything all up, and then we're like, what are we on the hook for? When we used that FICA plan in my prior life. We knew when I had to go up to the executive leadership group. you know, they thought they were gonna have to spend this much, and we're like, well, you're read this much. And they're like, well, we don't believe that, and I'm like, I don't care what you believe, that's what it is. You know, it's kind of the same thing we're going through here right now, it's like, you know, so yeah, that's great, we have 20+ million in the bank, but what happens if you're on the hook for 90 million? All of a sudden, that 20 million, you're upside down 70 million, where are you gonna get that? Hey, constituents. Then they're gonna torch us and get a new board, don't blame them.
Yeah, that's true. And keep in mind too, we get JVA on board, they will add to the same the wastewater master plan that was put out by Merrick, and then it was proofread by CDM Smith. Now you got JVA that are gonna proofread it too. So you're gonna have, it'll add on to the FICA plan saying, okay, these are the true low capacity hotspots. And now you're right. Even though we're asking for, 7 million in these phases next year, you're probably on the hook for 100 million. That's gonna show up, which is common, just like Denver Water has a $2.5 billion 5-year plan.
Well,
It's 12. Yeah. That's better.
that's just how they're reflecting this year. That
Well, it just
doesn't,
makes it, does it
that's
sound
what we're on the hook
Yeah.
for now, Jeff,
Yeah, 2.5 billion this year.
just now.
Yeah, now present time.
Wait till the rest of this gets actualized.
Yeah, so. Yeah, on page 38, we're breaking down all the numbers, and you can see the very large numbers on infrastructure replacement due to capacity. So these are the large numbers, and keep in mind too, let's say if you guys approved all this, we'd have to work super hard to get all this done in the year. I mean, super duper hard. Number one, with supply chain issues, and number two, with a lot of permit issues. So, but it brings, what we're doing is we're taking all the input that we discussed in every board meeting, and we're bringing light to it. So this is the actual light of, hey, this is the issues true issues that are faced based on a lot of data. There's a lot of, data that went into these numbers.
You know what I'm struggling with? So we had the Kipling, or I'm sorry, for the development down there.
Yeah, 10700 Expo.
Thank you. So, for that, running down that road onto a very busy Kipling Street and, coming up with some plans, we were able to get that at 3 1/4. But to run on Union, we're at $3 million. Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the projected of.
Yeah, that's kind of my reaction, just doesn't seem right.
well, so I know we like the idea of replacing it, but so for me, a non-pipe person. So the cast iron that is in there, if there's a break today, what is it patched with, or how is it? I mean, in simplest, brief and simple.
You're probably clay on the sewer over there on Union. But the water main, that's why they said the water mains in cast, they're fairly close.
But like, I'm gonna make this up, here's the break, do they just take a 10-foot area and replace it with PVC?
Yeah, usually ductile iron, they have things called megalugs, there are a bunch of bolts. So
Couplings.
yeah, a couple of megalugs, they just
And
cut it. Put in
And do
megalug.
they, and I know this is, and is it always the same diameter as what's currently there?
Yes. Yeah.
So we could not.
You're not gonna increase it 10 foot at a time, no.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
It's a good idea, but it won't help you.
Yeah,
It'll cause more.
We average like 20 water main breaks throughout the whole district of, so you're only replacing maybe, 5 to 10 feet every water main break, and you have 160 miles of pipe. So that's the reason why this costs a lot more than Kipling is, at Kipling, we're cutting off this 700 feet. Remember, the magic number was 700 feet. We're cutting off 700 feet of 8-inch pipe, and we're installing a few hundred feet of brand new 8-inch PVC instead of running it. The flow goes north. Now we're going to run it to the east to make use of the capacity of the 10-inch more. So,
Well, you're running down the middle of Union, so why wouldn't you go to that strip of land? You got a 5-foot easement to the east of Union. You got a big strip. I would be looking at going off of the Union Boulevard and into the easement.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that'd be part of the design if approved. Keep in mind, you can approve chunks of this, like just design it next year, turn it out for bid to design. I mean, there's all kinds of options here.
That's a ridiculous amount of money for that, though.
Now, does this represent we talked about the future, we talked about, we need to do pieces every year. 30-year plan or something like that. Does this represent first year of a 30-year plan?
That's why we put phase one, so this is the hot spot in phase one of 2,000 feet of 8-inch sewer pipe to be replaced.
Well, then every year there would be another 1/30th of the whole system being replaced.
Yeah, every year be prioritized. So you'd have more data too, because who knows, maybe this number would go way down. Hopefully it wouldn't go way up, but like you said, is like Terry and everybody says, we're in a tough market right now with.
But the sense is right now, these need to be done now.
Well, and that's the problem that I have with this. I kind of throw the challenge flag and say like Union, is that more critical than Sims or Union over there? I don't think it is.
I think that's the whole point. We have been asking for a list with priorities, with all of the projects on it, and the point was not to get it into the budget for next year.
Well, and then, like I said, then you have to, when you get the FICA plan all up,
Yes.
because you only have so much we're gonna spend on capital improvements every year. And I understand we didn't do anything with this whole COVID craziness. So we're behind a little bit, and I understand that, but that still doesn't answer the question about the proper racking and stacking of the actual real highest risk and priority of the district.
Yeah, this is based on the CDM Smith report that examined the Merrick master plan. That's what this is based on. So based on, so Merrick put together a master plan saying these are the hottest areas. CDM Smith looked at the 5 hottest areas. So these 2 areas are based on the CDM Smith hottest areas on their report.
I think that is great. But looking further, big picture is the things that you have seen since you've been here, Mr. Tice. I'm looking at, like, where are the things that fell off the list? Where all the old sewer liner projects and all that. There was a list that was compiled for 10-year projects. And we still haven't kind of interleaved that in. So we're only looking at a little bit of it. And these are good projects, but they all need to come together for all infrastructure. And I see what you're doing here, which is great, that we need to do replacement due to capacity. But the capacity projects, like I've been trying to say, it's disturbing, frankly, to see $5 million of infrastructure that needs to be done to capacity, when 3 months ago we would have said, oh yeah, no, there's no problem with capacity. At the time of the Raftellus thing, we still have buy-in method, we have extra capacity everywhere, let's not do it. If we need to upsize any of these, so here's the question. Are these projects that are identified in the CDM Smith report, everything that you've got on here, due to overcapacity? Some of them look like they are on the list because they will be critical in upcoming development. Are they on the list strictly because they need to be replaced? Are they a danger? We're over capacity now anyway, even without development.
And that's why I wanted the FICA plan.
And that's what we need to do.
You have one variable, which is capacity, or you have age variable, capacity variable, risk to district, those things become an algorithm. And that's how you base your criticality of the projects. Where we don't have that right now.
What we do, the CDM, so the CDM Smith.
That's just about capacity.
The CDM Smith is very, very black and white. It says these systems are over capacity, and it verifies the Merrick master plan.
It's just capacity.
Yeah, so these are the hot spots based on the CDM Smith report. So that's why, okay, it's budget time. Do we put nothing in the budget, or do we go back to what we already paid CDM Smith and Merrick? So we already paid them big bucks, and they use their talents to say, hey, these are the hot spots, and say, okay, let's put it in the budget. And then now we're hiring a company, JBA. So we're hiring JBA to prove this out too. So we already have that base covered. So JBA is going to come in, and they're going to look at the Merrick master plan and the CDM Smith report, and they're going to say, yeah, we agree with it, these are the hot spots. Or they're going to say, yeah, these are the hot spots, and also these are the hot spots too. So we have all our bases covered. So we could put together more, there is a spreadsheet that was put together in February this year that lists all this out. And if you look at the end of the master plan, lists, a 10-year plan of $200 million for the collection system. So we could go, we could do anything that we're directed to do, but we have all the tools in place. So we have Merrick's master plan, we have CDM Smith's report, and now we're hiring JVA to prove this out. Does that make sense?
Almost. I was thinking we were hiring JVA to be using, I remember specifically saying not to do another master plan, but to be using those things and to be modeling it so that while we're testing his engineering.
So you're right, the RFP for JVA is to update and track the sewer collection system flow. So their job will update and track the sewer collection flow, and they'll give us more data we could use to determine what are the true hotspots. And they'll examine the Merrick master plan in the CDM Smith report to examine those hotspots. So right now, due to this is by law, we got to submit this budget. Due to this time of year, we got to say, okay, these are the hotspots that we show data on that's proven out by professionals that we show now. These are the hotspots. So that's why it's presented now.
So my problem with the whole thing, and not taking away from anybody, lack of professionalism, that's still not what I've been asking for 5 years. It's still capacity is just a component of what I've been asking for 5 years. There are so many more variables that when you're working at this level in this age of infrastructure, you have to have a better understanding than just capacity. They're oversimplifying this.
And we do, keep in mind, that's why we do sewer lining too. So you figure the history of Green Mountain Water is you've done a tremendous amount of work in sewer lining, just like we're sewer lining the Bear Creek interceptor line. So that's a priority, saying, okay, so based on master planning, that is a priority based on asset care master plan, sewer line that. So now we're shifting gears and we're saying, okay, so in all these years past, we looked at sewer lining, but now we got to look at capacity issues because sewer lining does not address capacity, like you guys said. So now that's why we're bringing up the capacity issue.
Understood. Okay.
Well, I think that's the last page.
This leaves us with, leaves me with the problem of what to approve. This is one, it's too many projects for the year. Two, as we've been talking about, secondarily, that even if we wanted to accept this strictly on capacity, anything due to increasing capacity, that's where you take all those costs and you lay them out in a plan separate from everything else, and you say this $5 million, that's what's going to go now into our system development fees. It doesn't come off the line items here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's the missing.
That's the missing link. That's what we're asking for.
Right. And you know what? If that's what we have to do, if we have to cut and paste our own algorithm because these engineering houses won't do it for me, I'll do it for them. I'll bypass their $30,000 or $50,000 fee. I'll sit down with a beer with Todd or something, and we'll come up with some simple formula to justify this because it's real.
It is. And well, he's got numbers here. I'm sure these are all projects. And if they're all capacity projects and we can't develop in places because of that, these are going to come up somehow. We're going to have to figure out. That's where the system development fees come in. That's the simpler way to do it than these cost agreements.
Right. You get the delineation. It's like
Yes.
the pink zone. Why are we running hot? Well, yeah, we overdeveloped.
We overdeveloped.
Yeah, Union. Why are we doing that? Because we overdeveloped. Well, that's where the color of money should have fallen into the tap fees and not on the constituents. And that's what the constituents are pissed off of. And I don't blame them. I'm not happy with this. This is like we talked about getting in the box. You have to get in the box. And you know what? The pressure is going to be on everybody to get in the box. You got a budget to live in. You got a world to live in that's real. It's not about approving extra funds, unlimited funds every year. And that's, hey, guess what, Denver Water? I would be telling them that too. You don't have a blank check anymore. We're going to start getting very serious about this stuff.
So for this budget, I can see.
We can edit this.
It would be, yeah,
I would recommend the directors look this over, send their edits in or start socializing that with Jeff. And start looking at it.
Well, do we have to be this specific?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we'll have to, he needs to see a budget.
Well, what I mean is, does it have to be a line item for a specific thing? We can't say that and the only reason I'm just saying that is if it's more of a general bucket. We could, if we reprioritize based on your FICA, say your three way that you would rate them as far as priorities. What if one is not on here, but it ends up being the number one when you actually use that FICA system to assess them?
That's how you drive the car at that point.
But
Exactly.
what I'm saying is, right, so what I'm saying is, though, if this is just a general bucket, can we rearrange what's in it, or does it have to say?
You can, if you're in the approved budget for that year, we can, and then we can rearrange it as long as that color of money is the same, right? That's why we have to be careful. That's why this is what's getting me. Some of this stuff, the lines are blurred, except when it comes over to a certain fund, which is what the ratepayers pay. For some reason, it's like, hey, it's all cut and dried and you guys just keep paying. But, in the meantime, when we have system development fees, it's like, oh, we'll take 2 cents on that, 2 cents on the dollar. No. So it's going to give us a position, we've got to delineate what this actually is.
Right.
And that's where it's been pretty messy, and that's my frustration. It's not like we just started talking about this, because it's like, I've got 5 years into this now, and I'm about ready to have veins pop out of my head, because I'm kind of getting really sick of this.
Well, I know where the emergency care unit is, Jeff.
Just let me go.
Development fees are critical in these numbers, and that's why it's very important to present these numbers, whether it's approved or not. The whole idea of presenting them brings light to the system development fees. So system development fees, also called TAP fees, like we talk about all the time, there's a lot of rules and regs that govern those based on math calculations. So we're using these numbers saying, hey, look, this is the issues we have because we didn't do our homework in the past 20 years to increase this amount of money based on all this past development. But guess what? It's costing this amount of money now. So it's up to you. We can say, okay, if somebody builds along Union, that's when we start putting those numbers in place to see if we could up the system.
So let's use Union let's use Union.
You can compare Union to Kipling.
like the 12 houses, the corner of Mississippi and Union, or something else that's going along there.
I don't know if that development at Green Mountain Elementary, if that ties into that connector, because you got the Mississippi line that runs down, and I don't know how that, I don't know if they both.
Well, that's what I was saying. Can that developer have to bear, because I want the developer to bear 100% of their costs to their property.
Well,
But you just don't know which one it comes out.
This is where Dylan will say, well, you can't, because that's like the expedition thing. This is where it gets crazy, because due to our lack of due diligence over these years, you can't apply that necessarily to always that one. Maybe you can, I don't know.
Well, based on our
Well, I'm not
rules,
saying charge them $2.9 million.
No,
What
but
I'm saying,
what we did over down the exposition is we did a split, right?
correct,
We
right.
did a split, but I don't know, this is why it's so stupid doing it this way. It's like, this is not the way to run this.
well, yeah, we're gonna tell the developer, hey, our rules and regs say we're at 0.7. We know we're already, you're gonna drive us way over 0.7, and we're gonna look at it to redesign it somehow and negotiate the cost with them. And keep in mind too, that once you hire this JVA, if you look at their credentials, you'll have them backing you too. It's important to have these, like CDM Smith was very good backing quality control. So if a developer complains, we just bring in CDM Smith and say, look, here's a third party saying we're over capacity. So JVA is going to do the same thing. So JVA is going to say, yeah, we've done all this data collection, we've done all this, and yeah, you're not only over capacity here on all the way down Union and now Kentucky and now Kipling and Alameda, your capacity here. So whatever development hits, we'll say, yeah, we have engineering studies based on third-party calculations showing we're over capacity, and they could throw that into the Raft Hillis calculations too.
So the problem we have, Jeff, being directors and, you know, you being the manager, when we got an $8 million spend, right?
Yes,
It's like, and the people, and rightfully so, that voted for us are saying, how are we gonna pay for this? And it can't always be like, it just goes to the ratepayers. It can't just be constantly, you know, that.
Well, part of it has to.
Part of it,
I mean-
part of it does, but not that large, you know,
I
that's
understand,
where-
but this system has been here since what, 1960?
Yeah.
So for 60 years, the people that sat here on this board should have been collecting adequate funds or future funds to bear the cost of maintaining the infrastructure.
Correct.
We, at this juncture, are more or less trying to cover for their sins
As best we can.
as best we can
As
legally.
legally as we
Yes,
can.
legally as best we can. And I get that. And, so I mean, it has to, some of it, it's there. I mean, of the extra cash, the money that we have, it is meant to repair the infrastructure. And I'm not saying, you know, we need to throw our cash away, because I can tell you as an accountant, I love having plenty of cash in the bank. It's the safety net for everything, right, in life.
So that's what I'm saying. So if we're at what, 20 something, what, how many million?
yeah, so 20 million earning 3.25%, which you probably know will probably go up. I'd be surprised if it goes all the way up to 5%.
Yeah, you're at $600,000.
We are at 600,000 now, but it could go all the way up to getting 1 million a year. So you could crunch the numbers. I mean, Director Hood crunch it better than anybody else is we could balance, okay, we want to leave this amount of money in the bank to incur that interest. And then we want to invest this amount of money for infrastructure capacity. And then we're going to have a solid argument. The next person that wants to build a 100-story building, especially on, you know, that corner of Southeast Union, say, hey, you know, if you want a 6-inch meter, it's $3 million.
Well, so with that being said, you know, we're gonna have to do our homework here before, because we have to approve the budget in November, right?
December.
Or December.
You are not a taxing entity, so you have until December
December.
31st.
Okay, so we have till December, so I would strongly encourage directors, go through the line items. Start
So
socializing.
do we want to discuss any of that tonight, or do you want to save that for another
I
meeting?
would start getting your list and putting it to Jeff, and then we need to start looking at it, and we will have to have a stronger conversation in the October meeting.
We are in the October.
I'm sorry, November.
Hey, keep in mind, don't be shy. Tell me anything. You know?
Take me out.
Hey, we already got one thing off the list, the flow insert meter, so.
Well, yeah,
Just one question. What are the headings for these 3 columns? They're up there. Okay. So the first column.
you got
is-
2022, 2023, and then the
2022.
delta, you're either plus or negative.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Dylan, did you hear anything that you need to comment on legally, how we're structuring this? Or how it would impact development fees or for budgeting for next year, or having a budget, a bucket? I can see, so to put it on the radar too, like we've got a lot of rollover projects. We have a lot. Those are rollover that we don't have. This year's budget will look like we're spending down, no matter what.
So one of the things, so when I came on here, whatever, 5 years ago, we had about 15 million in the bank. We're at 20 million now.
That's
So we've got, and remember during the COVID, game,
right.
we didn't do anything. So my problem with our runway of money,
Yes.
it doesn't, at this appetite. And look, I'm not a CFO or anything, right? I'm just Jeff Baker, simple bank account duty, right? It doesn't feel and look right to me right now. I'm very troubled by this.
Well, I guess I was making the opposite point, because our reserves are going up because we haven't spent them. So no matter what this year's budget looks like, over the 5-year budget, we're still doing better. So we have to spend some of the money that we intended to spend last year. So we.
I
expect
agree
collected.
with you. It's just that the appetite we're looking at here.
This is right.
Yeah.
Well, but to me, what you're balancing is maintenance versus repair. So I mean, we could just wait to repair everything, The question is, what is that cost versus maintaining it or changing it? As
Well,
we go
that's where
along?
you get into that thing I talked about with risk. And that's where the staff will tell you, like Tamarisk, if you wait on that thing to become a problem, then you're talking about some major liability things if we're backing up.
So that's
sewers.
my, so since I've only been here, a year, or whatever, however long I've been here. Literally, no offense there, we've literally done no capital improvements.
Correct.
We sure talk about them a lot.
Well, that was the COVID thing and you understand.
And to me, I think we need to be more proactive from a maintenance. Take care, I mean, with her, you know, our reserves are going up and I love that. I love having all the cash. I love the idea of making money on investments. That sounds great to me. At the same time, with prices, say PVC going up to 5 times. Is it better to repair things now, even though it sounds bad? Than when, if we move 5 years into the future and what's $3 million today is $50 million then because of a disastrous economy.
And I agree with you, like the Tamarisk is the example, in 3 years, that's doubled. It went from 350 to 700, it literally doubled. I agree with you. The problem is this really our greatest risk? Is Union the greatest risk? And my gut feeling is no. But I don't know. I'm not an engineer, you know.
That's why it's hard to do this without everything else.
Right, we're having to operate from a level of I'm not comfortable with what we know.
Right, and I don't want to just do the projects that are coming up for development, because that's not how we should be prioritizing for the rest of the district. It's everybody, like you said, do some of it every year, and we've been asking for that for years too. What's the plan to get everything on a replacement schedule? And
So let me ask you, Jeff, so before all this craziness that went on, I know we were budgeting, wasn't it like somewhere 2 to 3 million a
Yes,
year?
sir.
Or
Yeah, 4 million in past history.
that's the runway we typically operated under, and like, go ahead.
I was gonna ask Jesse a question. So how long have you been here, Jesse? As
18 years.
18 years. Throughout your 18 years, have the district, have they actually done capital improvements all those 18 years, or was it pretty hit and miss? I mean, from your just random.
Sitting in the space that, because I GPSing for a lot of it early on. It kind of, tapered off. There were lots of different things that happened. There were a lot of years where it kept rolling on. There were just like huge delays and stuff, but I was kind of out of that.
So that's not uncommon is what I'm asking. So that to like that, just repairing and keeping everything going seemed to be more of a priority than actually repairing and keeping, like maintaining the system for that. I mean, I'm not saying maintaining, not fixing what we have, but I mean, doing extra projects to make things even better.
I'm not sure I could speak to that with enough authority
Okay.
to be accurate, but
So I come,
you could literally just go back through the actual list of everything we've done in 20 years and just see what we've done.
so my background is reliability, and you do things because you have to do and you justify it. And I'm telling you, that hasn't been necessarily the case here. I don't think the reasons have always been good reasons, well thought out, proactive reasons, right? And that's kind of how we've gotten to this point here. Now, when you fail to be proactive, you will be in a completely reactive world, and it's going to be expensive, and it's going to it will be unbelievable.
Well, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yep. That's where we're trying to get on this footing, right? We want to be more proactive and not just wait for some damn eruption somewhere, right? And then hope we guessed right on the eruption.
A good example of that is Jackson, Mississippi. You know, Jackson, Mississippi had $90 million spent to Siemens for infrastructure, and they failed dramatically. So, and you know, they were in boil water issue for almost two months because their infrastructure failed. So now they're under investigation. Well, what did you do with the money for infrastructure? So it's, you know, it's our job to provide, hey, this is, you know, we actually have third-party data that shows this is what's going on. So if anybody said anything, we could bring in our third-party data to say, yeah, this is what we're seeing. And we're actually generating more data through the RFP too. So we have all this data and all the information to protect the district. And these are just estimated costs mainly,
Right.
because we've seen everything's gone up 2 or 3 times more.
Well, and like I said, one of my fears is watching, I mean, unless something changes in this environment. It's going up exponentially. It's not just barely going up, it's going up exponentially.
Yes.
And so a repair today or a maintenance. Being proactive today has to be cheaper than a year from now.
I agree with you, and that's the thing, like you know, your investments, if you're only getting 3% and your CPI,
Right.
CIP is 7 or 8%, you know, obviously spending that money. Now, you're gonna outstrip your potential for investments or letting it sit
Right.
there. But then with that being said, you have to have the right criteria to move forward to segregate the projects in the right order. So you're not just sitting there like, oh, it's just capacity that you're working on, and then we have the eruption somewhere else. And now you're responding to an eruption plus what you probably should have put on a lower level.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
But these engineering firms are recommending this list. This is what's being recommended by the
Based on
professionals
capacity.
on
Look,
capacity.
I lived in a city of engineers. They talked in my head all the time. You know, just because they're engineers doesn't mean they're not fallible. You know, you have to give them,
Are you not?
you have to give them specific guidelines to work from, right? They're gonna do what they think, but if it's like, if you're just talking capacity, they're gonna give you something based on capacity. That's why I'm not challenging them on that. But there's more than capacity.
But is there
There's
some overlap between being proactive and capacity? If you upgrade a system because of the capacity question, isn't it also proactive in a sense?
It
Yes, yes.
is proactive in a sense, but then what about age? You know,
So,
what about this? And then what about future? What are we looking at in the future for that zone,
so
right?
back to the FICA thing from, we'll use Lockheed. Was it their own model? Is it a model that you purchased from outside
We worked
software?
on it for 20 years and it was all around the reliability program I was part of. And it was to address this. It's about spending your dollars.
So why don't we create our own and then sell it to other districts and really make money?
Because they won't.
Right, Jesse?
I will tell you, people don't like that whole look. People live in a 1-year box. That's all they want to live in. That's how we got here.
Keep in mind, the capital is broken down into capacity and improvements. So there's both on there. There's both improvements and capacity.
Just cautionary
So,
tale.
so could we do, and now to be more serious about that, can we do a lower level? Can we construct our own FICA model
Yes.
at a lower level?
That's where we're working. That's what we're.
Yeah, we have all the data, we have the Excel spreadsheets, we can do it, but keep in mind that we're gonna, the input we put into the spreadsheet for FICA is we're gonna take the input from the master plan, the CDM Smith report, the JVA report, and our own asset care. So we're just gonna put all that data into the FICA. And it's gonna spit out something more in depth, that's all it is.
Can I ask a definitional question? Looking at your chart. Okay, we have system improvements and then we have infrastructure replacement.
Yes,
For example, in this Union Phase 1. We have Phase 1 water improvements of Union, $2 million. Then we go down to infrastructure replacement and we have Phase 1 sewer improvements, $3 million. Together, that's $5 million for that stretch.
correct.
Because like two different.
That's our
projects.
estimated cost. So you have a water line and sewer line running parallel down Union. It's easier if you're gonna replace the sewer line, might as well just replace, it's an old cast iron line, might as well replace that. And keep in mind too, that cast iron water line could turn into a capacity issue too, depending on all the data we generate.
Okay, so the way I read that is the Union Boulevard project is $5 million.
Correct.
Well, that's water and sewer, yeah.
Yeah,
Upper is water, the lower
Okay.
sewer.
Just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly.
It's based on length too, so, we're talking like 2,000 feet, from, like we said earlier, Mississippi to Florida on Union, so, keep in mind, we're 100% flexible. You guys come back and say, no, we're not doing that, or you come back and say, let's just do 1,000.
We don't have
or
a
500 feet,
Well,
we could give you that number.
it's not only just that, but like I said, they're basing it on an estimate, probably running right down Union, right? I mean, it's actually on the east lane a little bit, dead center of the east lane on Union. if you were to like get somebody like what Terry did down there on Kipling, go in there and like, okay, let's get smarter here and sharpen the pencils. Maybe you do go into that easement, you know, we got that, there's a big patch of grass that runs from pretty much Florida all the way down there. Maybe we install the lines there and then you just do a tie-in at Florida and you do a tie-in at Union, and all of a sudden you're not ripping up 1,700 feet of asphalt.
I agree with that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you go, you have a little L and you go over and you go
It's kind of
down.
what Terry did on the Kipling jump over, you know, we were looking at,
Typically how be the.
yeah, we were
Well,
looking.
that
at
makes
like,
sense, because there's quite a bit of space between the road.
There is a
And
great
the house.
easement, there's a nice easement,
Correct.
we would have to bore at that one, you know, where the housing development right there in that one
Right.
little area, that's probably a couple hundred feet of boring or something like that, or maybe, I don't know.
And that would go into design, so if you approve the budget, or you could just approve the design, you know, say, hey, what, you know, send a design out for request for bid, you know, so.
Well, I would have to think without tearing out the old and just putting in new would be super more cost effective. I mean, you don't have all the, you know, the dismantling.
But
of the old.
he's trying to budget it right now, and so you get this, you know, swag figure, you know, just to get something as a placeholder on
Right,
the budget.
Yeah,
And I guess along those same lines, we're just giving an idea of what the money would be. We don't have to go out and spend it right away. We could wait and see if a developer came in and wanted a piece of that action. Then at that point, we might talk about a little cost sharing. But right now, if we do it right now without a developer, we do 100%.
Well, that's why you have to make sure that you're doing a list based on all over priorities and not just the main capacity ones that are hitting development. So,
Well, and that's where you get into the
That's
master
why
plan and like the city's master plan, like, well, we
Right.
know this and this and this are gonna happen.
Well,
so
then,
can I suggest, sorry, but we're spinning, can we put this off to another meeting? Can we have another meeting on this? We generally have another meeting for budgets. I would suggest this or this specific topic, if we can get through the rest of the budget, and I don't know if everybody wants to be involved, if that's a special session or what, but this is complicated. In my world, anything right now that's due to capacity, I want that in the capital improvement plan to be incorporated into development fees. So I really need to, I need to see that before I want any of that in our budget so that we can figure out which one goes where, because I don't know, and I don't want to start paying for stuff. So I'd suggest we have another discussion
We
about
got
this.
6 weeks, so, yeah.
Yeah,
And you do have your rates and fees here. Still to do this year.
should I renew my question to you that I didn't let you answer before? Does it,
Well, if you budget for a capital improvement project and whether you have a 5-year plan or not, if you budget for a capital improvement plan, from your capital improvement plan, you have a project, you can assign a fee associated with that. So you have the Kipling sewer replacement surcharge fee. So anyone that purchases a tap that's going to run through and be benefited by that, you assess them that fee. That's one way that you increase your system development fees, but you have to have those projects planned to assess those fees. They need to be part of the rates and fees. Because you can't assess, you know, they can't come to you and say, we're going to tap into this, and then you say, oh, well, good, we were planning to do that project, unless you actually were planning to do it. So you're on the right track with developing a system capital improvement project plan. You need to do that in conjunction with your rates and fees. So you budget, you determine the approximate increase to the value of the infrastructure from that asset that you're introducing into the system. You determine what proportion of that asset increase can be attributed to any additional taps benefiting from it, and then you assess that fee. So that's how you do it. But you cannot just, oh shit, we're fixing this. So someone needs to pay for it, because that's what the rates and fees are for. That's what your ratepayers, they are paying for maintenance for the whole system. That's the sort of public policy deal that you've got.
Well, that's the little sword I'll run down the middle of this and say, yeah, I get it if it's just maintenance due to age and that in use. But when you're over capacity, now we're kind of like getting into that zone, like, okay, how did we get there? Who did that? Because that's what they answer the question to the people that we're going to be hitting them with some sort of an increase. It's like, well, yeah, this caused us to go over capacity, and they're going to say, well, why didn't they pay for that? And I'm going to have that Elmer Fudd thing, like, like, I don't know.
And the answer is because prior boards didn't pass on the appropriate level of cost to your ratepayers.
Well, you know whose head they're going to take off?
I
The
do.
present board.
I did.
And I guess I'm okay with not having this big head on my shoulders anymore, but yeah.
So based on what Dylan just said, if we went with capacity for this budget year, we're kind of covered, if I understood what he said about new development tapping into this. If we went with this budget and then next year, the next budget decided to become proactive, wouldn't that solve a lot of this? It would delay what you're talking about by a year, but it would solve a lot of immediate problems. We went with capacity this budget, and next year we were dead set on being proactive and also appropriately charging any taps or developers.
So I agree with you, but this is where he's talking in secret words kind of, but it's like,
Oh.
you have to have the language in place. Right? It's incumbent upon us to get the language in place now, because if we do this down the road and we do blah, blah, blah.
But isn't this the language in the budget? It's saying we have to work on, I don't have it in front of me.
It's saying we do, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think we need to cinch down on the language and how we're doing it going forward. And that's where we've been trying to get these lines in the sand that are legal and.
Like where Karen is saying, getting it out of this portion of the budget and moving it into one where it's like a development.
Or a cost sharing.
A
fee.
cost sharing
Well,
development.
I mean, the top part here, the system improvements, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the things that you are improving your system. And someone is going to benefit from them in addition to the current ratepayers. So all of those things all right, so in 2023, rates and fees, you have a $3,000 Bear Creek CIP.
So what if we moved our
fee.
Infrastructure replacement ones up into system improvements?
Well, if you're improving them, yeah, if you're increasing capacity, that's a system improvement.
The reason why we use infrastructure replacement due to capacity, because that's the exact language used in the math calculations for system development fees. That's the exact language they use. So when you hire Raftillis or any expert,
Right.
they're gonna say, well, what did you do because of capacity? For system development fees. For
So
capital.
what you're saying then, Jeff, is that even with the contingency, but we'll just add that in, the 5.082 million, that is what we could use to pass on.
Yeah, that's exactly why it's worded that way, is everybody's right. So number one, yeah, we're behind the 8 ball when it comes to increasing tap fees for 20 years. Number two, we have to show we have capacity issues in order to prove that we have to increase tap fees, because that's the math they use. That's the math Raftillis uses. If we hired HDR engineering, that's the same math they would use. They all work together. So they all know this is the math we're going to use. So that's why this is worded the way it is.
So I don't know why they didn't tell us. I didn't get that message.
That's because they didn't ask us, they asked Merrick how the calculation should go.
Yeah. So
Well, that's my 5-year frustration thing.
It's a problem of.
What do I have to say specifically to get exactly what I'm trying to ask for?
well, yes, that's my job though. So Director Morgan did a great job getting the actual American Water Association M1 report. So if you study that standard, that's the industry standard. Raftillis actually wrote it along with some other experts. And so that's what we have to go is based on those calculations. So it's strictly worded as, hey, if you want, in other words, if you turn the clock back to 2004 and somebody said they wanted to build these hotels and hospitals, you would say, you know what, this is gonna drive us all over, this is gonna drive all these areas over capacity. You're gonna drive us over capacity, so we gotta raise tap fees. So, but now we're beyond that, so now we're looking at future development, so that's why we had to present this document the way it is. And the way the public sees it is, oh, wait a minute, this is a lot of money. But, you know, keep in mind, Director Hooks is right. This is money, but it's actually money that was paid by a lot of people over a 20-year period, and that's why we have $20 million in the bank, is to pay for a lot of this infrastructure or capacity. So if we want to move forward over system development fees, we have to show that, hey, we're spending money on capacity issues. We just can't, like Director Morgan said it best, we just can't go out and line sewer pipe all the time, because that doesn't show system development fees. So tap fees, we have to show capacity issues. So that's why we split this up.
One additional aspect, Todd, at the rate study,
Right?
it was buy-in value, essentially. What the tap fee that Raftels produced, the rate study that they produced, was based on what's the value of the infrastructure that you're buying into.
Right.
And every year that you don't do projects, capital improvement projects, the value of your asset decreases.
So they depreciate it.
Right. So your tax rates may actually decrease
Wow.
under that structure.
That is the problem, finding that is the problem.
And then the rate study did provide summaries of alternative calculation methods, but it did use the buy-in method as a essentially fully built out district.
The value of our whole backbone and our infrastructure, pump stations, sewer lines, water lines, so we're increasing the value of the backbone by getting rid of the cast iron pipe and replace sewer pipe.
Okay.
But we have to balance, you guys have to balance that, you know, you gotta look at that and say, hey, we don't want to spend 10 million, we want to spend this, or we don't want to do this, you know, we want to do this first. But our job is presented in a way of, hey, this is all the data we collected, and this is what we're seeing out there based on a lot of data.
Can you tell me what kind of projects you left off of this list?
No, we threw in the whole kitchen sink. There's nothing left. That's reasonable, you know, I mean, you could run a line all the way down Union if you wanted to, but that's, you know, for construction and engineering, that's unreasonable. So this is it.
Well, to follow along that, does this represent 1/30th of our whole district?
Well, yes, the backbone value of the district, based on Raptil study, I think was $160 million. So, you know, you're
But from a
investing
property standpoint, didn't they say we were like,
$650 million and
right?
7 billion on the whole thing, but it was like,
That's different.
that's all debatable stuff. So the backbone listed on the spreadsheets that was like Director Morgan said, that was given from Merrick to Raptilus is based on 155 million. So, you know, that if that's a solid number, then, you know, we're investing $10 million into $155 million of infrastructure.
Just a quick question, 8,000 to remove trees.
I'll have to get back with you on that one.
It's not urgent.
I took a tree down for this weekend.
Oh, well, maybe it's within reason.
Trees are expensive. Yeah, we had all that storm and all that other stuff.
Don't worry about it.
It's almost 4 trees, maybe. Yeah,
Down for say for my tree that I'm
they're not cheap. Okay, where are we at here?
All right, so we're going out of the budget, so just let me know what you guys need. We're moving on to the agenda.
Is there anything, is there anything else we can get off of the budget now?
Well,
We just want to have another budget meeting.
we'll have another, that's what I'm saying, let's do our homework, highlight stuff and have a meeting to edit or, you know, to have a discussion. Because we're really going down rabbit holes here, and I'm sorry, it's on me. Okay. All right, so you got the red zone, or where are we here? I guess we're on B now, RFP for wastewater collection tracking. Agenda item 9B.
Isn't that the JVA?
Yeah, I think you pretty much.
I think we've already done that.
All right,
Yeah.
red zone tank. New development on Alfire.
Yeah, so the red zone tank, we are keeping a track on the water level to make sure we're not, if you look at the history of the red zone tank real quickly, way back, I think it was 2008, 2009, they did a study and they said, oh, the water level dropped, let's line it, the liner didn't last that long. And then, oh, let's reline it again, and that liner didn't last at all. So right now, the walls are approved epoxy under what they call NSF 61, approved by the Colorado Department of Health. So that approved epoxy should help seal the tank, not as much as the liner, but the liner filled anyway. So we are tracking the level of the water to make sure we're not losing it. And the way we track
We
it
lose
is,
a lot of water for $1 million.
yeah, exactly. So that's why I put the red zone tank on.
Thank you. I don't see it under legal either. What,
I've received no response to my demand letter, so that's, I generally budget 60 days for a response, so that's gonna be mid-October, actually. So I plan to bring that up in November with some recommendations,
thank you.
or maybe you'll get a check in.
I wish.
Or
That
would
would
you
have
file an insurance claim on that then?
I'll take that up in November.
Okay. All right, new development on Alcar.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. I sent y'all the information. That's right up the street here. They're gonna build 15 multi-family homes, then the old Green Mountain Swim Club, then along
Now,
with.
before you zip on past that, because I think that address is right there behind the fire station, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's the Chisholm building. It's an office building right now. And he's gonna be converting that into 15 apartments.
I'm not 100% sure. We just had inquiries on it. That's what we know so far.
Where's I'm drawing a blank for the fire station. is.
Safeway, fire stations. There's the, right over here, just go down Alameda here, you got the fire station, then you got Safeway,
Right?
And the restaurant there, Mountain View Cafe.
and you got a
Oh,
little.
you mean the Mexican restaurant?
Yes.
And you got a red brick, if you go down Alcar there, you got a red brick office building.
Yeah, on that pie shaped corner.
He wants to scrape that and put something in there.
Gotcha.
That's that brownfield stuff we're
Okay.
talking about. So you go from like, which is like a single family residence now. Now we're gonna densify it to 15 multi-units.
Yeah, that section of Alcar, there's a bunch of duplexes. And
Right,
then there's one office building which Chisholm owns,
yeah.
and he's converting it into these apartments.
Yeah, so we're gonna go from like a one SDF to 15, so.
Yeah, and these are like studios. It's like, room for one bed.
Wow.
So we need to check those capacities out on Alcar too, so we'll see how that, if that's red or not.
Wow, it's $7,000. We're at 105,000. Where's the money?
You could also have them, and I meant to ask about this earlier, have them pay for a capacity offload study.
I think we need to be doing that as a standard operating procedure, no matter what.
Yeah,
That as soon as you inquire, you're triggering these costs.
$15,000 deposit.
So
Right,
yeah, if we gotta get these little sensors and go hook them up and engineering and all that stuff, because you're initiating the work, and we're not just doing maintenance now. Now we're trying to figure out if we can fit you in, but
right.
that should be on you, not on the district.
By the way, I fully agree with what you just said. Just be forewarned, I know Chisholm. Chisholm's gonna be pretty upset with that. He'll be in the meeting here to complain about it, so.
Okay.
Just go heads up.
So we're here
He's
for.
allowed to have a red vine.
Wasn't there John Wayne we called Chisholm?
Yes,
Chisholm's
He's
good.
probably named after that. Yeah.
I was gonna actually bring that up under new business for ways to do that moving forward, because we have this problem, and we also need to somehow make developers aware that these costs are coming, when they just do this availability. And then we say, well, it's in the rules and regs that you're gonna have to do maybe upsizing or maybe costs. It comes as a big shock, because then later on, so
Are you
What's the
saying like a
best way-
pre-building checklist of some sort or a
it's under rules and regulations. We would stipulate under rules and regulations.
which we do, I'm just saying, so now if you want to put a new apartment building in the district, you get this, is water available that they can take to the city?
Right.
And that's like a yes, and we say, yes, water is available as long as you comply with our rules and regs. And in the rules and regs, it says you may be required to pay for this and that. But this is a big change for us to say, we have water available, and then you haven't ever had to pay for anything, and now all of a sudden you have to pay. They should be paying, they should always have to be paying for these studies and the design work and whatnot, and some of it they do. But we need more at this point because we don't have the capacity, so there will be more costs that they are not anticipating, and I think that would be worth looking at how to.
So do we need to make a motion, Dylan, to modify our rules and regulations? Can we just go ahead and do that?
I would save that for the rates and fees study, because that's
Okay.
gonna be the imposition of a new fee.
Okay.
essentially.
Okay. So
How do you mean?
Jeff, can you,
What's the imposition of a new fee?
Oh, I was thinking specifically with the flow study, I think that I'm looking here, I think that your rates and your rules and regs already impose that, and it's really just an operations thing. It needs to change, not a standards.
Yes, I agree.
So,
That it's already in there, we just haven't been doing it lately, and so when people come up.
yeah, there needs to be some sort of outreach response to solicitation of availability of service.
Yes,
Yes, and pay attention to our rules and regs or whatever.
there will
response is.
probably be costs.
So Chisholm has already put in a request, that's why he's on the list.
I have not seen, I don't think I've seen that request in the city of Lakewood. So we have the form from the city of Lakewood request where we add to the bottom of it, and we could actually add more wording to that form. I can send it to it because in the past year, we added, if water is, yes, as long as water is available and they have to insure cost and all that. We can actually say refer to rules and regs too, like I send you that form.
Yeah, I think you're right, it'd be a good idea to have some of that spelled out, because like in his case, I'm talking about an individual, he had a lot of bad experience with the city's housing department, went to court and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna say that he can go off in and start shooting up the world, he's had a bad experience, so.
Gosh, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
it's bound to happen.
So how did your father die? At the water board meeting?
I'm the only one who knows. Anyway, like I say, he's a little sensitive, now, so I try to.
5 years of this, I'm a little sensitive, so.
Remember what Mark Twain said, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting over.
Yeah.
Apparently it is.
That's starting to see it.
Okay.
So you're putting on that per the rules and regs every time you sign that, right?
Yeah, well,
Or it's on the
We-
language now?
we're working with the city of Lakewood. City of Lakewood kind of drops the ball because we added a sentence there, then we get these forms where the sentence is not in there. So they sent us the blank form. So I'll add the wording that was approved in the last year, and then I'll add more on rules and regs, and I'll send it to the board.
And maybe, and point out that costs may be associated.
Yes.
And that might be something for.
Well, we
legal
ought to say
review.
costs and fees and
Cost and fees, yeah.
services, cost, fees and services.
Something,
Yeah,
and
so-
I would run that by.
So it's in your rates and fees, reimbursable district fees. Any applicant requesting water and or sewer service from the district shall be responsible for the payment of all legal, engineering and administrative fees and costs associated with the service, including but not limited to the design, construction and review process from initiation of the project through completion of the project. So.
It's all in there. I
It's-
think it needs to be pointed out up front because like I said.
Maybe
it
make
hasn't
it
been
bold. I don't know if
Right.
we can italicize.
That should give you enough proof to put pressure on 10700 West Expo that say, hey, we're already in the design stages, you guys, and there are rules and regs, you guys are accountable for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could probably invoice them for the
Yeah, we might.
design project already.
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I would send a letter.
All right, we'll get an invoice from Eric and send it to you guys.
Invoicing for the. full
Did you
amount,
wish you
and
went out to
don't
dinner
screw-
before you came?
Yeah.
Don't cheat them, of course.
No,
We
can't-
want
we can't
everyone
do
to
that.
be reimbursed completely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are we good on
Yes.
D? Joe?
Yes, sir. So under legal matters.
Okay. All right, we're under legal matters. Dylan, you're on deck.
How would you like me to proceed?
Well, make sure we have, Terry here from IGA Fossil Ridge.
Right, so the only thing on general legal is Fossil Ridge. I can jump right into that, or there are some other things I can give just general updates on first.
Terry has gave it nice.
Why don't you do theirs since they're there?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do that. So I did review the IGA, the associated documents, the amended, restated IGA. Prepared a memorandum. I circulated that. I hope everybody had an opportunity to review it. I also had a conversation with, the attorneys for Fossil Ridge 2 weeks ago now, and, just sort of fleshed out what they might be, what their ask might be, like we talked about at the last meeting. And we have directors here that can speak to that more fully. The long and the short of it is, the IGA provides for reservation of capacity to serve, to receive sanitary sewage from Fossil Ridge in the amount of 1,723
Total
total EQRs. That capacity reservation is coming, that obligation to reserve capacity is coming to an end in January of next year. So like we've talked about, we're now a little ahead of the ball on renewing that, addressing it, dealing with it in whatever way the board deems appropriate. My understanding is that the request for continued capacity reservation is somewhere around 1,300. And I don't have the particular number in my head, and I didn't have it when I prepared my memo. At the time of preparing the memorandum, there were 1,269 EQRs in service. Like I put in here, and like I put in my email earlier, my understanding of the IGA is that once EQRs are put into actual service, they're not really subject to a reservation of capacity because they're in service. So they become more like standard ratepayers or residents of the district, even though they are not included in the district. So for my purposes, I would prefer that the district conceive of this renewal renegotiation process as addressing that gap between the maximum currently in effect until January and the amount currently in service.
So is that delta 500 additional?
450.
450, okay. Just to
And,
be clear.
and the delta on the current in service and the ask is somewhere between 50 and 150. So I laid out a number of, the range of options as I see it, without getting into maybe executive session type stuff. You can just cut it all off, which that has some iterations, or you can, if there had been a request for, no, we actually need 3,000 EQRs because whatever, that's at the other end here. And I don't think that we're here, and I would recommend that we not be here.
So
And we have directors available to.
right, so from my read, I mean, I think initially someone had said about giving like longer extensions. I kind of like the 5-year period thing. I mean, renewing it for those type things, and the reason that I do is that what I don't know is like with Denver Water and with other things that are coming, down the pipe or to the district. I mean, I have no problem in the future, but if something like more or less puts a huge squeeze on us somehow, whether it be water capacity or other things. I mean, I would rather not say, oh, well, we're guaranteeing these for 20 years or 25 years when if Denver Water gets themselves in some bad way or, truly, I guess, puts so many increases on us that it's difficult to pay or pass on.
So they're only sewer.
Yeah.
Over
I
there.
understand.
So we wouldn't have Denver Water, there's none of that, and then. I think the ask is 400 and some units or something for the build out, is that?
And the number that I provided was, I believe, 1,352.
Yeah, it's the max I sent out. Yes.
Let's say that's within 6 or 7.
Okay, and that's fine, I just think, we wanted to get the know what the numbers are and,
So there's no water involved.
no water.
No, they're providing water by consolidating.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we're just talking about the capacity for over 5 years. I think part of the original ask,
So the IGA says,
17.
the parties may agree to extensions of 5 years. In writing.
Right, and that's the way it was originally set up,
Yeah, so it's 15 years and then optional
5
5 years.
increments.
Yep, and the original IGA wasn't drafted this way, but I think that it would be helpful to conceive of extensions of service and extensions of capacity reservations separately. So we'll continue providing service along these terms to the existing tap permit properties for 20 years or whatever. And we will continue reserving capacity on 5 years, 2 years, or whatever. I think there are opportunities here to negotiate different time schedules.
Okay.
For those two tracks.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it almost seems like if we put them in place from a service standpoint, I mean, wouldn't it be difficult to say no? In
Right,
service, I mean, down to like practically,
Right,
that doesn't make
pragmatically,
sense.
Yeah, and there's outs built into it, like if Metro terminates your connector agreement, you don't have to continue providing service.
Right.
And for example, if you are terminated with Metro because of unacceptable levels of effluent arriving from Fossil Ridge, that would be a reason to terminate actual service.
Right,
But those are sort of worst case scenarios.
I understand, yeah,
So 13, so it's about 100.
so is that something we want to make a motion on, or do you want to think about it?
Well, we could think about it. We could also make a motion. Is everyone perplexed look, ready to go home? Where are we at?
I'm ready, I mean, I'd be willing to vote on it. You wanna vote on it?
I do not.
You wanna vote on it?
Well, generally speaking, I would say wait it to another meeting, but
Okay.
as far as perplexed, I do have some questions. All right, the numbers that we've thrown around. Off the top of my head, I'm remembering something about like 450, 454 was the number of EQRs that were still available. I.e., I interpret that is if Solterra came in and built 450 more units, we would accommodate that. Is that understanding correct, or is that all?
That's, there is existing capacity reserved in the Green Mountain system
Right.
to receive an additional 454 EQRs present. And you are obligated to continue reserving that capacity until January 15th, 2023.
Okay.
So, yeah, so there were,
For another 2 or 3 months.
if they, yeah, they got 400 houses
Came in.
permitted in the next 3 months.
We have to accept it.
Exactly.
And I think that was that filing 21 or something that was going on.
Filing 21.
Something is going on right now.
They're still being reviewed.
And how many are we anticipating coming in?
We're not gonna hit that 450 at all.
They're saying 100.
131, 114 units left to be built the way I count.
So they're asking to ask, if I understand this, is they're asking for 113 EQRs into the new IGA. That we're trying to look to extending a 5-year agreement with the existing capacity and giving them an additional. Past January, 113 EQRs, is that correct?
114.
114, sorry.
So not actually on, not an additional 114.
No, it's not an additional, but
Yeah,
they're,
and that's what I'm trying to clarify.
okay, so we go to January 2023, we're at 0, right? Because they didn't meet their mark. They did not get the 1,700 units built. They're asking if we at the 0, like there's no IGA, they're saying, hey, we need capacity for 114 more units, not 400 and something. And we would put that over a 5-year or whatever, 2-year, 5-year period. That's the ask I'm understanding.
Yeah,
Or
would you
are they
both
willing-
mind, would you mind just stating it for us in your
Okay.
words, what you're asking for?
There's a 1,269 permits already issued, EQRs, okay?
Out of the 17 something.
17, and we need 114 more
That's that right.
to build out, and then we'd be done.
To make about 1375.
And we can cap it at that 1375.
Yes.
We're max at that point.
So we already,
So do you want more than that?
No,
No, they
land.
if
That's
if
what
we
I'm
could-
asking.
Yes, if we could, if they, look, if they would have met the mark, if we extended it under the existing condition, they would have went up to 1,700. They're saying, which is a delta of 400 some, might look, it's getting late and my math's
375.
really falling off the table here. Right, 375. You're only asking for 114 units, so
So we would, so what you're saying they're asking is, we would potentially be just approving the 114 to continue for the 5 years.
that would be the new IGA.
Okay.
And are you in agreement with the 5 years?
You're the guys that have to decide that.
Well, I'm just curious how you
We're gonna
feel,
do what you asked.
but what would you desire? What's
Well,
your,
we would, obviously, 10, 15, when our attorney talked with, Mr. Woods, she was asking for 20. And, I'm more interested in trying to comply with what you guys are interested.
So our Dylan is saying we could do a split the thing. We say we do a 20-year service at those capacity levels in the addition of
Yeah.
114 units. But we're gonna have two things. We're gonna say in 5 years, you have 5 years to fulfill the capacity of 114
But we
units.
could also renew that if we chose again.
You can do whatever you want.
If they are, they'll be done within that 5-year period.
Right.
Your concern was, which was, what I appreciated more and more as we sit through this, is you want it static, you don't want surprises.
Right, we don't wanna like say, we're gonna give you a 20-year
Exactly.
runway. And you can or can't do that, but you guys already have a solid static number. And we wanna make sure we don't leave anybody hanging because we have a prior agreement, so we're trying to get the handshake done. Early rather than waiting till January when we're all jumping through hoops.
Yeah, so total. I can't see how we would go over 1360.
Yeah.
Okay. And right now we're at 1269. And those are the townhomes yet to be built. That's the end of the land, that's the end of the property to be built in Salterra.
Okay.
And that's all Fossil Ridge Metropolitan District is interested. We're not interested in anybody else's.
Right.
That's ours, and that's all we're interested in taking care of is our stuff.
but you're asking for 91 more.
No, 114.
114.
So yeah, his math was a little off on the one.
Oh,
I went to 1360, which is more than 114. It's like 100.
Well, no, you said 1269. It would actually be, like he said, 94, but it's okay. We know you want
I
114.
must have done my math. 1269 and 114 is 1380. Yeah, 1383.
That
I've
sounds
done
more
some,
like it.
the
Yeah.
number 1269 or 114, there's something's not exactly correct with it.
And I
The
think
total
it's-
number would be 1360.
I think that there, since I prepared this, 26 more have gone into service.
Gotcha.
Since I got this number, I think that that's part of the issue here.
Okay.
So we're a long way from actually having an executable document, but before we get to that point, I'll shore up the actual numbers.
Okay.
But we could say not to exceed 114 or whatever. Yeah.
Currently in service plus.
Okay.
14.
So I guess just to, if it's okay with everyone, he'll get the final numbers.
We'd be glad to
Report.
provide whatever you need.
And I think we'll be prepared to. I'm gonna ask the board, would everyone be ready in November? Put this as an agenda item? Hey, do you have enough information other than the map? We'll clean
Yeah.
that up. And then I think we should be ready at the November. Board meeting to go ahead and put this to bed and get it done early, if that's okay with everybody. Does that sound reasonable to the both boards?
Okay, let me clarify, as far as the reserve is still out there, we're looking at changing it from what the 450 right now to be more like 114.
Yeah, it's a good news story for us
Right.
with this.
I'm always looking for the good news, bad
This
news.
is a good
Good
news
news
story.
is less.
This is the only,
The only other clarification would be the extension of the service.
Yeah, and I'll need to have a conversation with your attorney about making that distinction. It's capacity, because the reservation capacity is designed to allow the builders to know that they can keep building. And then you've got the hard deadline of 5 years or 18 years or whatever. But the service is different. Homeowners need the reassurance that.
you're not gonna turn off your sewer 5 years from now and then they're.
So that's why I see the two issues here. Number one is future units that are gonna be built. Right now, we might have 454, we might have a lot less, but we're envisioning we're gonna get 114. We're okay with that. Second issue then is they're paying a premium. And I want them to continue to pay a premium and maybe up it.
So that'll be
Because we need more money.
a separate conversation.
Yes.
So currently, I think it's about $1.25 per dollar of regular district resident.
Yeah, I don't know, but whatever it is, like I say, I'm looking for money, as you may have noticed. And secondly, whatever that price was, that was 15 years ago. We've got 15 years of inflation since then. And we're looking at 5, 10, 15, 20 years of inflation ahead. Maybe this can be a moving target, but anyway, I'm looking for a higher number.
Yeah.
Or with that, whatever that fee is.
I'll push back a little bit because if it's based on a ratio of your own rates and fees. Your own rates and fees should be taking into account that inflationary increase. So
What was it based on before?
your rates and fees in 2008?
Was it like 105% or something?
Yeah, 125. That's why I said
It was
about-
125%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you probably have to keep that. Well,
it's still a ratio.
yeah, okay, so it's okay. Can we make that ratio 130%?
I am happy to negotiate as directed by the board.
35%? 145%?
Do I hear 140?
All right. Anyway, the more money, the better.
And I'm gonna be drafting the IGA, I expect, so. It's not gonna get done in November. You don't ever complete a contract like this in a few days, so.
We could have it.
You can have
probably
it
voted
skeleton,
on
yeah.
and, at least put everyone to ease and then.
Yeah, you can have the terms outlined.
Stop the ice.
So this needs to be an agenda item for
November next 3
Well,
weeks.
and they can be confident that we're not gonna cut them off. They're gonna continue to have service. The only question at this point is how much money I can squeeze out of them.
That's accurate.
So you guys had to sit through our capital budget plan. It's all those big
Oh, it
numbers.
was motivating. It was very motivating.
Okay, no, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for being patient.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is what it's about. We go through this too.
All right. Dylan, what else you got there?
Well, we can do the Lane Law Firm analysis of the Young versus Green Mountain.
Okay,
We can do that in executive session or not, up to you all. I sent that analysis from them. I hope that you read it.
Yeah, to the attorney.
Yeah. So this is your insurance counsel.
Right.
We prepared this. The short is their initial demand was 63,000 plus diminution of value. My reading between the lines on this is the insurance counsel thinks that we should go to the Trinity hearing before making any of the settlement overtures, because that'll help illuminate whether the district actually has exposure. And that's going to change the adjuster's perspective on it too. So I don't have any reason to gainsay that recommendation.
I would, myself, I would agree with you on that. I think, looking at what what you had put out, you kind of shed a different light on it for me, I mean, I have my opinion, personal opinion, but but I agree with the Trinity hearing probably to That's where I'm at.
So when you said the 63 plus the diminutive, did they put a dollar figure? Or is that 63 all inclusive?
No, that was an undetermined demolition value, and probably since the motion to dismiss came so early in the litigation, that amount hadn't been determined yet or disclosed.
Right, okay. I'm
good.
happy.
I'm good.
Right.
You good?
I'm good.
You fading?
Yep.
Okay. Have a great one.
Yeah, really.
That's our solution to everything.
Like,
There has been no movement in any of the other litigation matters. Coming up in November is going to be the Green Mountain case against Ice Noble Cedar Cove for malpractice. That is every 6 months I file a status report saying that the underlying case has not been resolved. I plan to continue filing that report. I think it's November 2nd.
Just a state.
The state continues. I'll talk to insurance counsel on the other side there and just confirm.
By the way, totally unrelated, when I was doing my research about the federal center, I noticed the Ignacio, I can never say his name, that whatever that law firm was, they were the ones that we were using at the time that the federal center deal was being made. And I'm wondering, with them coming down the pike here, does that cause any sort of conflict of interest, or that's just a coincidence? I'm just wondering if there's anything to that.
Well, Ice Noble was the district's counsel for a period of about 12 years.
Right.
And they negotiated a number of agreements for the district and their names are on, but there's no conflict there. They don't, as far as I know, they don't represent the purchaser. And I guess if you think that Ice Noble committed gross malpractice in the negotiation and recommendations associated with the Big Sky litigation, which is the basis of the malpractice case against that firm. There's the potential that they committed gross malpractice in the
That
negotiation.
thought occurred to me when I saw that. It's like, cause I don't like them anymore
Right.
after what they did with the Big Sky. And I looked at that, and went, I wonder if they screwed us over on that one too.
Well, we haven't peeled that onion back. And that's
Yeah,
kind of
it's a
the
big
kickoff.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway.
And
But he's got to stay, so he's got a placeholder, and I think as we go down the road, if something else reveals itself, I guess you could always attach it to the.
yeah, it'd be, most causes of action accrue when you know or should have known. So once somebody actually attempts to make use of that IGA, maybe that's when you know if they're.
Because I just became aware of it in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I think, off the top, I would say probably not.
Yeah, probably not. It wasn't interesting.
On that, I know that we've had some sort of informal outreach. I don't think that we've had any formal communication from the purchaser of the federal center about any of that, so that's gonna be a next year thing, maybe.
Yeah, so we actually have no previous contact or contact after the sale of the new purchaser. The people that contacted us, I'm 100% sure they didn't get the bid, so I don't think we have any contact with the actual owners that I know about. I'll double check.
So the one thing we did ask, Jeff, the last thing is, when is the federal center IGA, when is the sunset on that? Or is that all now district? Or is that included? Do we get in?
It was included.
Yeah, so yeah, they expanded the district and, the actual Fed center, they get their water straight from Denver and send their wastewater towards Kipling, probably through Lakewood. So we don't have any water or wastewater through the actual Fed center itself. And then they just expanded that area that they just sold off when they did the St. Anthony's negotiation.
Well, that's the point. So it's like if there was an expansion that wasn't part of the original inclusion.
Yeah, so
That's the contention I'm asking about.
yeah, the land was included as part of that. More or less, the IGA has been fully accomplished. Its purposes. So, and I think from my read through of it, it's not assignable.
So what IGA? What are you talking about?
the IGA with St. Anthony's and, the federal government concerning services to the federal.
They had this big old loop where they changed ownership. They give it to one person for an hour, or I think 4 hours, and 4 hours later they sold it to somebody else to somehow get around all the legal and tax things. So it changed hands along the lines.
They
The city, St. Anthony, GSA, it was quite a affair.
in 2008.
Yes, 2008, yes.
Okay. Well, currently the
The
property,
2007.
well, I was gonna say currently, as of September 16th, the property was owned by the United States government. So I don't know anything about the change of hands.
Oh, yeah, for this property, I'm thinking about St. Anthony's.
Okay.
They jumped through a whole lot of hoops. There was a question mark, I was like, is that legal? I was like, hey, we pulled it off, it worked.
I see. I don't have any insight into that. But my understanding is that the greatest likelihood is that the service obligations under the IGA with the federal government are not going to continue.
Okay, so the IGA is between
Purchase it,
us, the water district, and
St. Anthony's and the United States government.
also three-way IGA.
Yes. Well, it's a two-way IGA and a one-way contract, because St. Anthony's is not a government.
Okay.
Can you start poking on that a little bit and? Cause it's gonna happen, right? I mean.
It
we probably
is,
have a
yeah.
year, But to what Dave is saying and all this stuff, I saw some of the language, and I'm not a lawyer, but. It looks like some really quick hand waving stuff, on something that looks pretty substantial. And, I would like to know the validity and obligations, that are very straightforward, clear cut on that.
Yeah, in large part, that's gonna depend on what the United States does.
Well, they said, if I read it right, they're like, we're done,
That's my
when
understanding.
that happened, all obligations are now severed. We had, the United States government had agreements, but now that thing's sold, that severed those agreements. So that's why I want to start poking at.
Okay, yeah, I can look into that further.
It's like, what are the actual legal obligations? Because the language of the United States government says everything now ceases, prior obligations are over.
Yeah.
Going forward, that would mean they have to be negotiated, whoever owns that.
So a new IGA.
Well,
Well, no,
something,
because it's probably owned by a private entity.
we just need to poke at it. We don't know enough, but that's why we need to start getting some sort of legal handle on this thing.
Again, just off the cuff, I would say, it's just a big piece of land that's included in the district, and somebody wants service there, they're gonna come to you and ask for it. Because all the prior agreements are done.
Not
And
much
there's-
left to negotiate that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, what do you put in there? What's the capacity of the infrastructure in the area? What? It's gonna be just like any other. Procedurally, it's gonna be any other development, yeah.
Well, but here's the question, because of the contamination and stuff like that, they jumped through a whole lot of hoops and did work with the state of Colorado for the environmental stuff. And, they did mitigation and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if there's some sort of legal things about that, like, we put this in and you're not legally allowed to disturb this cap that's over the land. There might be things, I just don't know.
Yeah,
It might be.
I'm sure.
That's where I'm concerned about our district employees from a safety standpoint.
Yeah.
That if we have to get into the ground, break that cap, right, and they have to actually repair or operate in that environment. I guess I want to look at
So do we?
because it's safe as long as the cap's in place, right? I had to work in the same thing at Lockheed. We had the same thing. To go into that was not allowed.
Well, are
The
we even
EPA
qualified to do mitigation services?
No,
We don't have mitigation services, but there's building plans for the contaminant. There's a plan.
that
in
doesn't
place
mean
on the
it's
selling-
legal or right.
On the selling docs, things that they agreed would be followed.
Yeah, and I think not breaking the cap is part of the.
Well, how do you do that? All right, it's getting late now.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you do
Well, that's
that?
the
Are we
builder
gonna have a levitating?
Right? That, you
Yeah.
know what, honestly, that's the builder's issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really it's Lakewood's issue.
Okay, one quick question though, Department of Local Affairs requires us to send in a area map every year. So something to think outside the box, I don't know, take that off our area, send them a map, that's not our area.
I don't know if, I don't know if there's a way to forcibly exclude a property.
Yeah, something to look at, but I mean, just say, hey, we don't want that property because it's contaminated.
Satellite glitch, it happens. Russians did it.
Yeah, yeah, that's gotta happen.
Yeah.
We have to ask. Can I ask two more legal things was? This case crap. Since we found a seal,
Yes.
when I asked, when we were updating the bylaws, nobody had a seal. So I had to design one and stuck it in there because it was required by statute. So now there's one and there's this and.
Thank you, guys.
Do we need to do something?
Have a good evening.
Take care.
Should-
By the way, did we have
Or
to
this
deal with
one or
these
what?
people's issue? I mean, they came set for the whole time.
They didn't, they had public comment and asked them, they didn't say anything.
We don't know what they were.
That's
Yeah.
There's- I assume
Oh,
there's,
they're just staff.
Yeah.
Okay, they're just here for the entertainment. Okay.
well, I assume we were gonna be talking about staff raises and
Oh,
budgets and
okay,
things
okay.
today, so.
Uh,
So is there a precedent? Do we need to fix one or the other or just leave it and toss that one? Update the seal back to that officially in bylaw.
this,
There should
let
have
me
been
find the seal.
a JPEG in there, but.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. Here, purple seal. The seal of district shall be a circle containing the name of the district as shown below.
Yeah.
Which this does basically resemble. And shall be used on all documents and in such manner as seals generally are used by public and private corporations. The secretary shall have custody of the seal and shall be responsible for its safekeeping and care. And frankly,
Are you
I
getting an official seal?
have.
You're screwing up there,
Does it look like
Roger.
this? 'Cause I thought it would look more like the mountains outside.
It just says seal, no, it doesn't say,
Seal.
it doesn't have any.
Sam found that
Doesn't have any
downstairs.
drawing in the interior.
Well, I want to keep it in my house.
Well, that one works for having color.
Yeah, I don't have any district that I represent that actually uses a seal.
Okay.
On anything, you know, maybe. Let me take that back, because I think my fire districts, I think the fire chief, when he acts as fire marshal, uses a seal to certify something.
Okay.
But I really don't think that there's any reason that you guys would ever use this.
I don't know. All I know is that it's a blank and we keep having the word seal, like it's a placeholder, but there's no seal in there and it's
I
don't.
know,
and
we
it's
have to get
stacked.
our fire plan stamped by,
The marshal.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's on the oath document, but that's just. Everybody just has it notarized.
Right.
So you can seal your oaths when the president witnesses them if you want.
Mhm.
But also everything's electronic now, so you could just attach that.
Attach it, yeah. Well, if you think of any reason that we need to change it, looks like I thought that had something different on it, we'll just leave it like it is. And then the question of, is there enough detail on the agenda? We talked about this at one before, that
Yeah.
We kinda had it.
Several times.
a topic for the agenda. I don't know how we put any more detail about all of the range of topics that we discussed here on an agenda, because we're
That
not
gets
that
back to the
organized.
minutes. You can go from here to infinity
Yeah.
with detail. And you know what, to what Dylan has said several times, you know, if you get the gist of it, that's the obligation. You know, and you know, nobody can put all the detail that everyone wants into pretty much any document.
Yeah, your district has the most detailed agenda of any district, of any district I represent.
Wow, and they think we're lacking.
Yeah, I mean, you should see the majority of them, it's Pledge of Allegiance, disclosure of conflicts, minutes, Old business, new business,
business.
with no subparts.
Yeah, you
just
can
old
literally a
business.
half page, most
Yeah,
agendas will
six
fit on a
things.
half page.
Yeah, and that's probably a little shy of what it should be, but your agendas are.
Well, a compromise would be, again, using the council example, was they'd have an agenda like this, but then you'd have a board packet. And the board packet would have like a page or two backup of what's going on, like we do with the earlier stuff. And really the difference I see right now is where, we have district reports and it goes to say, check page 21. And, then you go to your board packet, and there's page 21. Well, the only difference is when you get down to director's matters, tap fee, it could be like page 41, you go to that one, and it's like, here's a little report, here's a suggestion, et cetera, et cetera. And you do that for each item. And that way you could have a whole page on each one of those items. So it's not technically on the agenda itself, it's part of the board pack.
Yeah, most of my
That
districts
is
don't.
kind
make
of
it.
the case, Doug does
Yeah.
that here, you can see, I was on the other agenda inside the board packet here, it is actually.
So are board packets a bit, like if someone was to phone in, are board packets available to people?
Well, they
It's
go
also
on the
Published
website.
online.
Oh, it's online.
and the agenda, they have the
I posted it
hyperlinks.
on.
Friday, which is also.
So when it goes out to the directors, it goes up on.
That's unusual.
Yeah.
I would imagine it is, but we're transparent.
So the
Well, part of that
constituents,
was 5 years, and 3 years that resulted in all
How many inches of scar tissue did we get over?
it's hurt my brain. so-
Yeah, I don't even have a brain, I'm stuck in it with red vines right now. Keep my head from collapsing.
I had so many last month, I only had 3
Let me
tonight.
tell you guys, the first 5 years, like I said, we're the veterans of that, and it's like, you're like, someone's probably not gonna get out of your life tonight.
but the constituent that called me said they felt that our agenda was sufficiently vague. That they didn't know if things that were of concern to them were being addressed or not. And that it required them to participate in the meeting, either show up or watch on the video when they weren't exactly sure what we were gonna
So
address. I
just
don't
another
have
question,
to.
are they allowed to ask him to address an issue?
Yeah, like, look, what he's trying to tell you, if you
I
know,
did that. I clicked on those.
so wouldn't that answer that? I mean, it's
It
like,
seemed like it would.
so that's my point. It's like, there's nothing hidden. We're making it efficient, you can like scan through it quickly, but if you need detail, if you're under director's matters and there's an item, you can like hyperlink over to it.
If they have.
Yeah, I think it's.
But there is no hyperlink on the director's matters.
Right, there's no documents associated. with
Yeah, and
this.
that's kind of the point, is you have those hyperlinks, those are fine. And remember when I came in complaining about couldn't have access to the reports? Well, you can now, because all these hyperlinks.
Well, those were in there, you must.
So what would we put, okay, let's, just because this could go on for hours, but like, tap fees, what would you want to put under there?
I put on there, these are the fees that we charge to developers coming online. We do this on an annual basis, and we're looking at perhaps increasing them next year. It's 1 or 2 sentences.
Well, okay, so it's actually, we do it quarterly. And
Whatever.
we're kind of like stalled out on this conversation that took an hour,
Yeah, and that one in particular, I know you're just using it as an example, but tap fees, you have to provide 30 days notice of any change to rates and fees. So that has to go out.
Well, like what I just said there was a heck of a lot more than just tap fees. I mean, those of us had been around, tap fees mean something. The average person coming off the street, it's a fee for when you tap your cake. I'm a little unclear.
Well, except we're not a beer distributor, so obviously tap fees, water and sewer, but so look, the thing is like the topic was tap fees. Did we really have a direction coming out of that?
No,
No, that's the point. It was just a general thing. We're kind of
I'm
following it up
gonna
from,
fall asleep.
Right.
yeah, we're kind of going circular here, but
I'm just relaying what this person's concerns were. I think it's adequate compared to all the other boards I've been on. It's comparable. And these hyperlinks are certainly a jump forward, and we can just go with that.
yeah, like I said, if we would have under tap fees, if there was something we were actually gonna talk about tonight, they would have linked it, but it was just a general thing, because it was a follow on to the last board meeting that we wanted to increase tap fees, I got shot down and, we're still fumbling around trying to figure out how we're gonna do
Well,
that.
let me show an example of something, to me, like, there was a meeting or two ago, we had something under directors matters called new developments. I was like, well, what the heck's that about? Well, this time we have new developments and we list several, projects. It's like, okay, that's kind of meaningful to me or anybody else that was reading it. But when it said new development, that was kind of meaningless to me, and I'm, on the board.
Well, I suggest that you just nominated yourself to read the agenda, and if you want any more wordage on there, add it in.
Not it.
Dave
Well,
said,
we already do this. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. So I send the agenda out the Wednesday before the Friday it's sent out. So when I send the agenda out Wednesday, please read it and please add any more information on this, and this, and I'll put more information on that and I'll send it out Friday. So everything's
great.
everything's in place. I promise.
That's
It-
good.
It's just like I sent the map out for Dave and Larry. Did anybody read the map? It had all the units, had everything in there. So
in color.
yeah, in color. So it's like, yeah, so all this information's out there. We just have to.
And by the way, now
So wait, hang on, Jesse, we went through this before. How bad was the agenda at some point?
Well, at the cautionary tale,
Cautionary tale.
just remember that we went, as a district, collectively went through a lot of nightmare around the agenda about who was writing it, who was allowed to write stuff, who was allowed to say what was said. So whatever the direction is, just if, from a technical standpoint, it's like add more hyperlink, put more detail. All of that's very approachable. If it's just a small commentary or a note in there, not a problem to type the extra text out. But the only thing that's really helpful from a staff perspective is just a very clear and concise directive of exactly what you want.
Yeah, and keep in mind, can't emphasize enough, you have a district manager now. That's me. A lot of this did go, the poor staff had to suffer because they didn't have a district manager. So when I send it out on the Wednesday, just tell me, hey, I need more information on this.
Well, and you had a director that
Yeah.
thought it was their business to jump through, they had access to everybody and they don't. So,
Yeah.
it talks about this, when we're talking, if you need more information, customer service at greenmountainwater.org, more information, customer service agreement. The manager will address the
Yeah.
question.
I think it's adequately covered.
Yeah, we're more than happy to give you more information, whatever you need. Yeah.
I know it's in.
All right, so are we done with the legal?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna close agenda item 11, open agenda item 12, new business notifications for next board meeting.
No, I had a lot, we're just gonna we need to do the budget. I have a lot more to talk about on the budget, but, when do we want that next meeting? 2 weeks?
That's fine.
I didn't check the calendar beforehand, so we'll soon
Just tentatively for now, 2 weeks from tonight,
for
budget meeting.
budget meeting.
On the 25th.
Yes, just that's a tentative thing. And
Is it still acceptable to attend via Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. I'll probably be in Omaha, but I'll give it a try.
If you can't, if you can't get a connection in for, you still want to attend, we can always phone you in too.
Okay.
Not to wrangle again if you want to be like, oh, no, my internet.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, the internet.
Can't use that.
If give you like 20 minutes or say I'm 20 minutes ahead of time, notice if you're having.
I don't know.
You just find a payphone and get a bunch of quarters, get a stool, sit there and.
You dial it right
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
What?
I think, I have another legal question, but I don't need to do that now. You want it?
I accept emails.
Yeah, there you go. I will do that. You can go.
Yeah, feel free to email me anything too with the budget or anything. Save time, if you want to save a lot of time.
Okay. All right, is that it for new business? Anything going?
We didn't get Solterra today. Make sure it's on the Solterra 20.
He put it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as a comment on that, at the last board meeting, they suggested that they should have a signature block on there.
Yeah, it's drawing right here.
I don't.
Do I have to sign that?
I don't think that that's really Green Mountain's business. if they want it on their.
Yeah, we forwarded a complete drawing back. We have not heard from them yet.
And then we're, I don't want to
Yeah.
be it. We're plowing this.
The budget.
Okay,
So special board meeting, just the budget.
yep. Do the homework. Okay, and close that. I'm gonna, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second discussion? No discussion, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Five directors have agreed. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Dylan. Very much.